Alright, hello everyone. So, long time no see or hear from. Um, a lot has happened since my last video, and there are so many videos I meant to do since then, like Prince of Pegging, that was next. But I'm busy. I'm busy, half busy, half lazy. Like I certainly get free time, but then I'm like doing other things too, like past my free time, more calming things. But I have some time today, as the kids say, and the biggest thing that has happened since my last video is Queen Elizabeth died, which is a pretty big deal. Um, you know, she's been this fixture in it in my life, I guess, in everyone's life, I guess. Everyone knew the Queen of England. So many random pop culture references to her over here in America, and so that's a little weird. For all the bad she represents, there's a sadness about that, I have to admit. It's like, but yeah, she does represent a lot of badness, and it's very valid to point that out, and it's very valid to have 100% negative feelings about her as an outsider, or even an insider. It's an interesting sort of thing, that complexity, that complicated, the complicated feelings I imagine one in Meghan Markle's position might have. Like, I just imagine myself in her position, where she could have like these memories of, like, you know, Queen Elizabeth making her children laugh. She talked to her through Zoom. She talked to her personally, and she could have these, memories of that are just very human moments. And Harry certainly would have a million memories, good and bad, of Gran, right? But then, she could also have these frustrations, because everyone here is human. So people you love and care for can also vex you, make you upset, make you angry, be not great to you at times. And it's possible that Queen Elizabeth wasn't great to Meghan at times. So she could have a whole mixture of emotions, where this is my kid's great-grandmother and this is my husband's grandmother, and she could be loving in these moments, and I have fond memories of her and with her, and I knew her in a way no one else. I don't care if you're 70 and you're English and she's been your queen since forever, or you're even older, you're in your 90s and you've known of her since forever, and you're English. It doesn't matter. Like, you don't know her. You English people, you white English people, you don't even know her as well as Meghan does. You have not sat with the Queen. You don't know her mannerisms behind the scenes, the little things she says, her smells even. Meghan knows her more than any English person outside of her blood family knows her, and even more specifically outside of, people who've sat with her know her. So, like, this, because you, I don't know, you hail from the same country or the same race, there are people who feel like she's ours. You don't even know her like I know her. No, actually, you don't know her the way Meghan knows her. Meghan knows her better than you know her, knows more about her. It also because she is the wife of someone who really knows her. She is Harry's wife. She is a grandson's wife. So she knows her better than you. And, like, this is gonna come up because this video is gonna be just like this interesting thing that happened sort of accidentally, kind of like with the Duchess of Tights thing. That video format was a bunch of Twitter posts with the Duchess of Tights hashtag, and just me, because I had collected them because I thought they were funny and I thought it might make a good video, and I just wanted it for my personal archives. And then that's what happened here, but it was like coincidental. Like, I made a new folder, and I don't know, like, I just take screenshots all the time now. Like, receipts are very important, I feel like, even though I don't use like 99% of them. But so just the day before, because I believe she died, hold on, September 8th. She died September 8th. So Queen Elizabeth died on September 8th, and I just happened to be, like, I made a new folder on September 8th, morning of, and I just started taking pictures and putting them in that folder. And the folder was originally called Examples, because I was looking for specific examples of like English hypocrisy. That's what it was gonna be, like the hypocrisy of like accusing Meghan of things that Kate has done, Harry of things that William has done. That's how it was starting. And so the first picture in this folder is to do with that, and it should be on the screen. So it was this huge coincidence when Queen Elizabeth's being sick was announced that day, and then I'm like, okay, this folder, I guess, is going to be about that, because I started taking screenshots of things pertaining to news about that instead. But so, like, over the days of her, well, not of her death, of the mourning period, I guess, not all of it, but the beginning, like, I think I got like 10 days worth of pictures I think this is like 10 days worth of news about, I think, I don't know. So I was taking screenshots of things, interesting things, all that was coming out, and I was naming it different things, and the names now, I've looked through them, there's so many. They help me realize, or they remind me why I took the picture. And, like, I don't know, this is all, I don't need to say all this, but it just was interesting, because I was grouping them originally by name, and now I decided it makes more sense if I organize this by order in which it was taken. So there are things that, like, they have the same names but numbered, and then but they're not next to each other in the file. And anyway, this is like not important, but yeah. So I'm gonna just go through the, like, all the news that I thought was interesting enough to screen cap, and all the little things that happened on social media, on Twitter specifically, over the days of the quote-unquote mourning period for Queen Elizabeth's death. So yeah, I guess I should start, because there's a lot to go through. Okay, so the first picture is the one on the screen, taken on the 8th of September, the day Queen Elizabeth died, so they say. To me, everything is possible. I'm not typically a conspiracy theorist, but, you know, things happen, and it's just, I don't know, the fact that Harry and Meghan were there, I mean, that could, of course, and to most people seem to be perceiving that as a coincidence, probably was, probability says it was, and even maybe it's cosmic, and, like, Queen Elizabeth wanted it to be easy for them, as easy as possible anyway, and she held out for, you know, her grandson to be there, and Meghan too, and, like, because it would be a little bit, I don't know, it might be a little bit of a complication if they had to travel from America. Maybe that would have, like, put them at risk, because people, like, all eyes would be on them, waiting for them to travel. I don't know. Or, you know, it could just be a true coincidence that she passed this on the last day they happened to be in England. They were doing this, like, a bunch of charity things in England and Germany, then back to England. It was a cool Sussex September, sorry, but it was a cool September, and then it was not. It became, yeah. Anyway, so it starts with this because so on their the German leg of their like events, they were in Dusseldorf, and they like Meghan took a selfie, and I think Harry might have taken one too. And naturally, when you decided someone is the enemy, as their hate base has, everything they do is wrong and bad. Meghan can do no right. Everything, she blinks wrong, she breathes wrong, she yawns, everything is wrong. So taking selfies is wrong, and everything is going to be framed negatively no matter what it is. Stuff that if it was someone you liked, if it was Kate or William, for example, these people, if it was someone they liked, they would give it a pass, call it cute. If it were Kate and William's tendency to hold hands, for example, that would be like people would love that about them. People would love that William is constantly holding Kate's hand if that was their thing. Like few to no one would like think that's a bad thing. But of course, when you don't like someone, everything they do is bad. Yeah. So that's why when Meghan took a selfie in Germany, in Dusseldorf, all the hate base was like, "Oh, this is bad. You're not supposed to do." And they say it's like royals aren't supposed to, but royals do. And I even remember, I have a memory of Meghan like in the beginning of his job as a duchess, possibly even before she and Harry were married. They were like, someone asked for a selfie, like they had this on camera, like someone's personal like phone camera, I imagine, and you could hear her say, "Oh, sorry, we're not allowed to take selfies," and so I actually, like, I remember seeing that back when it was new, I think this was before they were even married, maybe at her very first engagement, or like, what do you call this when you go out shaking hands with the people? Walkabout. Yeah, so I thought that was a protocol, and I mean, Meghan seems to have understood it to be one, but then, even despite that, I never researched that when she said it, but like, look, Kate and William have taken selfies before, and again, this is like, I'm sure when they did this, people were not upset, because it's like, they like them. They like Kate and Will. The hate base of Meghan and Harry, they like Kate and William, so they can do no wrong. And it was like, you know, they just, people viewed them with neutral eyes, like, so they were open to criticizing them, and they were open to like complimenting them, but it was, things like this wouldn't have bothered them, like selfie. I mean, maybe a few would say, what does she think, like, because there were critical people in the past of Kate, but now it's like she's been exalted to the heavens because she represents whiteness. Anyway, yeah, so just some hypocrisy, and this is the first picture in the folder. Yeah, the royals definitely do take selfies. Just like the royals do guest edit magazines. Dan Wooten. God, it's like you could just be brazenly racist now. Mr. Whiter than white. The monarchy must remain whiter than white, he said. And then he'll say, "Oh, I meant white isn't good." Like, that's not problematic all on its own. But, yeah. And they're clearly not. Like, Charles's whole history is not, if you meant pure, there's nothing pure about them. They're a very dirty family. Their money is dirty. They're like, what? So okay, but you know, pretend they love to do the dog whistles, then pretend, because that's how they have to do racism. You can't just call her the N-word, right? Okay. And then, this picture is just here. I think at the time people were talking about, oh yeah, I don't know, I just took it because people were saying, this picture is crazy, by the way, but people were saying how Meghan was like lying or exaggerating about people taking pictures of Archie, but like I would think part of that actually came from Harry, because like this thing they do is like they take away Harry's agency. It's so like weirdly abusive, which is ironic because they're constantly sort of accusing Meghan of abuse, but like you are the abusive ones, where you make Harry not a person. He's like a child, the way they talk about him, where he has like, to me it's like natural that he would be the one who is like, who can recall his own fucking childhood, you know, and say, yeah, there were cameras all the time, and like talk about his experiences. So he would be the one to like tell Meghan, yeah, they're gonna probably hound our kid, and you know, and then their experiences as a couple, they would know people are hounding their kid. And like, look at this, like this is what you're expected to do as a new mother when you're a royal to, or when you're the heir, and the mother to the heir is I think what I meant to say there. But like I feel like it wouldn't, maybe, I don't know, probably wouldn't quite be this, but also Meghan's name in headlines was selling so much more than even William and Kate's. So I feel like they were expecting her to put up with something like this. And just for, even if you don't like her, even if you think her child taints the bloodline, they would still want the money from the pictures. Like people will try to throw out, oh, she's not relevant. She very much is. She very much is. Her name sells more. Her name is written about more. There were way more articles about her when she was a working royal than there were about Kate and even Andrew. So don't try that gaslighting here. And this is madness, to be like the way you feel after you have a baby as a woman, and then to, like Diana said, this is why William chose Kate. He like chose someone not like his mother, because his mother shared with the world how terrible this kind of thing is. She shared with us all that she was in tremendous pain. She thought she was gonna like fall over, she said. And then they just, 20, 30 years later, they make Kate do it. And William found someone who, unlike his mother, would not complain, would just do it and smile and grin and bear it and just face this absurdity. This is insane. This picture is insane. These people are fucking insane. And the more you get into it, the more it feels like royalists and their followers are a cult. And it also feels like the British royal family are like a mafioso family, like just the mafia. It's crazy. So this was the last picture I'm noticing from the 8th. I'm looking at the dates for these, just to, because that's like probably something I should note. The day each picture was taken. So this next one, on the 9th of September, Meghan is trending with over 200,000 tweets, which is crazy. And this person points out, my God, yeah. Day, what was this, like 2? The Queen died on the 8th, so this is day 2 of adjusting to that news, and Meghan is like the top thing people are talking about, which is like a slight, I don't know, it's everything. It's flattering, it's disgusting, it's horrifying a little bit, and it's scary a little bit. It's a little bit like, I don't know, like oh, our girl is like, she's the it girl. They're not, Kate wasn't trending, and neither was William, neither was Harry even. Maybe he was, but I don't think he was. So it's like, you kind of want to spin it in a positive way, but it's not. It's also not. It also sucks. It's like a little bit funny, but it's also a lot stupid. So, yeah. So the next picture is of someone saying neither Meghan Markle nor Kate Middleton are heading to Balmoral. Pay very close attention to all of the people dragging Meghan while simultaneously praising Kate as a great mom for staying home with her kids. We see you, all of you. Yeah, this is gonna be you. If you lived through it through Twitter, you know. But this is gonna be a thing. This is a thing that is the trend for the next 10 days. I mean, this has been the thing since Meghan joined the family. And that's a video I want to make, because I went into the depths of my phone. I have like 8,000 pictures on my phone. I went to the depths and I went through and I looked up, like I had some foresight to take some, like I certainly didn't capture everything. I'll forever regret how I never captured on the day of her wedding. Someone in they have the For You page or whatever it's called, and I was on that and looking at random people's uploads of pictures from the wedding, screenshots from the wedding and stuff, and like someone under one of them said something like, "Wow, Harry really married the help," and that had like 11 or 12 likes, not a ton, but people agreed, and it was like, oh wow, this is gonna be bad. Like, this is a bad. Like, I had already been seeing it before they got married. I've been seeing it from the day they were announced as a couple on Facebook. I had a number of little arguments that day where people say they were hiding behind the thing they kept going to is she's a divorcee. The Queen will never allow it because she's a divorcee. And at the time I actually thought, well, they're English, they know what they're talking about. Like, I went to their profiles, you could see they're like from Surrey and all these other English places, and I was like, oh, they must know something I don't. I didn't even know that was a thing you could stop a couple getting married from, and people like calling her exotic Fanny. Like, I didn't, like, that was on, I think that was on Reddit, and like assuring people like, oh, she's just some exotic Fanny, guys, don't worry, it's whatever. And I'm like, okay. I mean, like, they were so certain about it that I wasn't even as offended as I was like, oh, well, I guess, because I knew Meghan from Suits. I knew her not before I knew Harry, but I knew her independent of her connection to Harry. And so when that was announced, I was like, yay. And I was like, cool. And I'm like, she's like so likable and a feminist, and yeah, this is like, I wonder if, if this relationship has legs. And these people came in like, no, it doesn't, there's no way, she's just not fit, she's too this, she's too that. And like, I'm not, like, no offense, like, 'cause some people were just straight up saying like, it's not about racism, but there's a certain look that the British monarchy tries to maintain, and she is not part of the look. And like, yeah, so I'm like, okay, so they're probably right. And then the relationship just kept going, and it got serious. And it's like, I was like them in a way where I was like kind of waiting for it to like fizzle, because they were so like, I wish that I didn't screenshot at all. Like, they were so certain, like, people like were even politely certain, like, not, I mean, at least their language wasn't insulting or anything. They were just like, it just, it's nothing against her, it's just not gonna work out, this just, the Queen would just never allow it. And I'm like, oh really, okay. But then it happened. But I'm like, I was gonna make a video about that, and like it's gonna be such a chore though to like dig into and like get all those pictures. I have to go through them. I only went through like the first few months of like, because in addition to pictures like that, I was also taking pictures, receipts for everything. I had just learned you could screenshot how to screenshot things on your phone, and I was just doing that with like random misogynistic things I saw, random like unconnected to Harry or Meghan. And so my phone is just filled with screenshots of things. So it's gonna be such a chore. It's like, again, like 8,000 pictures. Anyway, so yeah, let's move on, because there's a lot to get through. Okay, so this next one is someone saying, the way white people have weaponized words like duty, loyalty, dignity, and morality to protect abusers, oppressors, and violent thugs is truly something. They repeatedly deploy these words to shut up criticism and silence victims, and I agree and I retweet it because this is true. It is very true, and I even think the duty loyalty bullshit is, in addition to being bullshit, is just so toxic. It's so unhealthy, and it completely defies like the holding people accountable thing that people pretend to want universally. They want to supposedly hold everyone accountable, but apparently not the British royal family, not you know, the front of it, the representative of like colonization. Like, then we have to be polite, and this is like old hat for white power structures. It's like they do these heinous acts for century, and then they're like, oh, we're civil now, we're like done fighting because we got all the stuff, and now you have to be good, and you can't fight back because we've decided that's not civil of you. If you want to fight back or be mad at us, that's not very civil after you spend centuries being the height of uncivil. Now you want to say, no, we have rules now, we follow God, and God says, you know, don't be violent and be nice and love your neighbor, and yeah, we did terrible things to you, but get over it. And yeah, you're poor because of it, but get over it. And don't be a victim, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And it's like, wow, master manipulators there. Yeah, so and I think I was gonna say too, like, it really defies the whole, what's it called thing, the charity that the Heads Together thing, and just any advocacy for mental health, when you're saying like, when you're framing people being silent about their pain as good, as duty, as like, that's what loyalty is like you're getting abused at your job or in your family and you don't say anything, that's what dignity is. Like, what? They do this with Meghan a lot, like, to compare to Kate and even Camilla now. Like, that's the power of racism, where like they're trying to reframe Camilla as good because she's in opposition to Meghan. And so anyone, that's why her father, who is clearly embarrassing and bad, who even Harry's family didn't like and found embarrassing because he started slagging off, as the Brits say, the family she married into. And that's when finally, after months, this is according to court documents, that, you know, Jason Knopf, the traitor, Harry's traitor brother William, had, you know, his employee Jason Knopf go after her in court. Still lost. They still lost. She still won. Because what he was presenting was not even relevant to what she was suing for. But yeah, he that exposed like how the British royal family members, that she still tried to keep their identities private, and she pointed out how Jason's tactics were like forcing her, like it was like she felt like he was trying to force her to name names, but she kept their identities private, and but it was uncovered that she had these email exchanges with Knopf, and where she was talking about how like Harry's family was coming down on him because this, like, he had spent, like, Thomas Markle had spent months embarrassing Meghan, going to the press to say just anything about her, and that was like fine with them. They said nothing. And then when he started going on the shows to like insult the royal family, and now all these eyes are on him, that you've allowed to be on him, that the media is allowed to be on him for months when it was just about Meghan. Now they're still tuning in as he's now slagging off the British royal family, and now it's a bad look, and now they're like, can you somehow control your dad, because something is clearly wrong with him, he's very embarrassing to us, please put a muzzle on that crazy man. And Meghan tried to do that with a letter, because they're actually not telling her, they were like giving Harry shit for it, and then Harry was like, I don't know what he was like, but so it was like stressful for him. That's, I think, what Meghan said in one of the emails. And so her attempt to do that was with the letter, and didn't really work. He just went and sold that too. Like, shitty Father of the Year award goes to, well, it's a toss up between Charles and Thomas. They like can't pick your family. Yeah, he's clearly an unstable person, and of course this is one of those things. I'm gonna get sidetracked a lot, but because like we're only like 3 or 4 pictures in. But you know, this is one of those things. If like Kate's father were acting like this, no one would be telling her to forgive him. No one would be saying he paid your school fees. No one would be bringing up the race card. No one, like, I think part of it too is like people feel like you little mixed mutt girl, you owe that man the world, because they identify with him because he's white. And it's like one more thing that is that, like, because also, well, I won't get into that because this will just be way too long. But yeah, I got way sidetracked, so I'm just gonna go back into this, and this is actually the last picture from the 9th. So, oh, I'm just reading what I titled this screenshot, and it says a reworded version of a point I've been making. Is that what it says? Yeah, I've been making. So yeah, did I explore all the things this was saying? Yeah, that's basically, I think I said what I meant to about it. But yeah, so now we're moving on to the 10th, day 3 of this, I think. And this is called Australian Outlet for Daily Mail. Okay. So, oh yeah, so the Daily Mail criticized an Australian news site's coverage of the Queen's death, and here's the response from the Chasers web team. Enjoy! The statement from the Chaser, which I guess is a magazine or some sort of publication, not a magazine probably, some sort of publication, news publication, and they were, I don't know, disrespectful in the eyes of Daily Mail editors of Queen Elizabeth, I guess, I don't know. But so their response to the criticism from the Daily Mail is a statement from the Chaser's editor. As some of you may have seen, the Daily Mail has today run multiple stories criticizing our coverage of the Queen's death, claiming it is disrespectful. On reflection, they are completely right, and we are extremely sorry. From now on, we will be taking our lead from the Daily Mail's coverage today, which we hope will be more to everyone's taste. First, we have uploaded a story about mature-aged porn stars and placed that next to a touching tribute to the Queen's grandchildren on our homepage. The next picture. Secondly, we have sent a team of photographers to respectfully take secret photos of the Queen's grieving family in their cars. This certainly hasn't gone terribly wrong before. Thirdly, we have respectfully run 12 gossip stories about intimate details of her family's private lives. We did, however, remove our previous story about her son's sex trafficking scandal, as that is only respectful to comment on right now if you are the Daily Mail. Finally, and most importantly, we have made sure to include 200 ads on every single article because, much like the Daily Mail, we believe the most important thing to do in a tragedy is to use it to help Gary or Jerry Harvey sell toasters. Which I'm gonna guess from context clues that this is an English appliance retailer. We hope this will be more in line with the decorum you'd expect from those upstanding bastions of chivalry and decorum, the tabloid media. We all know how much the royal family love them. Yours truly, the Chasers web team. P.S. Be sure to respectfully check our website for a picture of Rebel Wilson in a low-cut dress. God save the king. I thought that was just brilliant. Very funny. Okay, and then the next one is, this guy, Edwin Hayward, who, well, let me read his tweet. Why stop the hate just because a nation is in mourning? This is the story that has been given pride of place at the very top of the front page of the Daily Mail's website. And the headline is, incredulous palace staff learned Meghan wanted to travel to Balmoral with Harry via media, triggering a furious half hour. This is insane for a headline, by the way. Their headlines are always so long. A furious half hour when matters came to a head before the Sussexes clarified the Duke would make the journey alone, reveals Rebecca English. So someone in the palace is either briefing to the Daily Mail, or they're lying, which they do often. So, one of those wonderful things. And yes, through all this, and I mean, this is just like, especially now being, so many weeks out of this event, it's like, yeah, this is their thing, is just everything is about Harry and Meghan and Harry, and yeah, that was the whole, oh my gosh, it was just days and days of this. They just have no, they have no, like, humanity. They're simultaneously cruel and like, they're cruel and they're just money hungry and emotionally unintelligent. They're bad people. They're the villains. They're the, like, to just sort of simplify it, they are the villains here. Harry and Meghan are the heroes, the good guys, the good gal, the good people, and Daily Fail, and the people who use them to spread shit, like, Harry's UK family. They're the villains. That's the simple way to put it. So then the next picture is of the hashtag #NotMyPrince, which was trending on the 10th. That's when this is dated. And I named this picture Not My Prince for William. And so yeah, I think this was like right after William had been announced as the new Prince of Wales and Kate as the new Princess of Wales, a title formerly held by, well, technically also by Camilla, but she didn't use it. But before that, the most famous holder of that title was Princess Diana. And I mean, what shoes to fill? I don't think Kate measures up at all. She's nothing really like Diana at all. She shares Englishness with her, and that's about it. Diana was a defiant in a good way, because her defiance was like touching the people, was like being kind in ways that went beyond what a royal spouse was supposed to be. She was just warm and honest and good, and she spoke well in public too, much like her other daughter-in-law. And Kate is kind of the opposite. Kate, another thing, like Diana was like selfless. I mean, she lived a lavish life, of course, and I mean, it's very understandable. A lot of people want a lavish life and they enjoy those spoils, but she gave back. She tried to advocate for people. Like, that is huge. That's crazy that she touched AIDS patients during the height of the HIV scare. Like, what an amazing move to destigmatize. That was just a boss move. You know, like, that's the kind of thing I can totally see a Meghan type doing. Kate would never. She's very by the book. And that's, like, I think why William picked her, because she's not a rule breaker. I think, like, because if you think about it, Diana came in, she was this whirlwind of different, so different from the members, the blood members, and the other spouses, and she was real in this way, and authentic, and they didn't like that. They hated it a lot. They hated the attention she got, and how it kind of overshadowed the rest of the family. Like, Princess Anne even said that really mean comment, I think after Harry was born, I think, about, oh, she had a child, I didn't know, something like that. It all's forgiven and forgotten in modern times. Everyone was nasty to her. Well, maybe not everyone, but a lot of that family were terrible, nasty to her, and felt she was not staying in her place. And so, like, the heirs, the next heir, William, was raised to not pick someone like his mother, to pick a rule abider, and Kate is very much that. Kate is very, she would, like, William could hurt her in a million ways, and she would not, like, do an interview to tell the world about it. That's, like, why he picked her. She's obedient, and that's why people like her. That's why so many royalists like her, because she knows her place, and right-wingers too. That's, like, the unspoken thing, is, like, she follows patriarchal rules. She'll, like, be a doormat. She'll be quiet about it, about any mistreatment she experiences, and they'll call it duty. It's like what they did with Queen Elizabeth. Like, she was rumored to have been cheated on by Philip. He has a whole other family, apparently, at least one. And when addressing it, I remember in this video where he addressed that rumor, he didn't deny it. He just said, if I had as many lovers or as many children or whatever as they say I would be, and he compared himself to, I don't know, some famous guy with concubines, I don't know. I can't remember the exact wording, but he didn't deny it. And it's very believable. And between her generation, the generation that Queen Elizabeth was a part of, where even normal women of that age group wouldn't necessarily divorce their husbands, even after infidelity, because of the stigma, and the fact that she was in the position she was as queen, where of course she wouldn't want to be the divorcee queen. Yeah, she was, like, weirdly in this, I mean, not weirdly, if you think about it, it was this gilded prison, this gilded cage of having to put on airs and put up a front of a brave face. And that's also partly why people like her, is like, she put up with men's shit and did so quietly. They call that duty too. She didn't actually do anything. Like, people can't list her accomplishments, the positive change she made. They can't. They never can. I've asked in all this mourning period, I've asked, and no one can answer why she should be so revered and beloved by people outside of her family. There's no real reason to exalt her. They just do, because she put up with a lot of BS probably behind the scenes, and because and partly it's like they're contrasting her hard against Meghan, even, because, like, that's a part of this, is like, people who, if Meghan weren't part of this family, if she was never tied to it, people wouldn't be as obsessively outwardly worshipping. I mean, they still would, because royalists still existed before, long before Meghan was part of the family or even was born. But it wouldn't be as much, because, like, people would, and I think we're going to come to that. There's a comment that says that, where even the queen, even the freaking English queen, in her death, people are comparing her. There's a comment, a tweet that says, like, all why the queen was great, and then mentions Meghan, and to contrast the queen with Meghan. like even in a time of mourning, the like most powerful female figure, that's like, in a way, it's like, it's bad, but it's also like Meghan is powerful. Like, you know, you're that B when you cause all this conversation as the other queen, the elected queen, Queen B, Beyonce, once said in her song Formation. It's like, my God, like you're comparing Meghan to the queen. That's awesome in a way. And I think you're contrasting it where Meghan's bad. I mean, this, it completely defies all the family's fake mental health advocacy where they say, yes, you should talk to people. And then Meghan does that and they shame her for it. Like, it's gonna be weird when if they try to push any mental health anything, because it's like a fundamental part of mental health advocacy is speaking up, is complaining. It completely defies the don't complain, don't explain mantra they supposedly live by, even though they complain all the time through the press. So it's just another layer of dishonesty and fakery. But yeah, so here are these people, one saying, time to retire the conferred royal title of Prince of Wales. It has no relevance in a progressive, inclusive, and forward-looking Wales. The title serves no constitutional purpose and reeks of colonialism from a bygone age. Well said, Daryl Williams. Well said. And I won't read all of them, but yes, this was trending that day on the 10th, and it's just like, it's just such an obvious truth. Like, there's no like logical argument for a monarchy existing. Their like only motivation for existence is existence, is to keep their power. They don't do anything good. They don't help their country with their vast wealth. You know, they could help end the need for so many food banks, and they just exist atop this pile of money, a lot of which was given to them for, you know, stolen really from the taxpayer, and then like the root of it is colonialism. It's like all of it is dirty blood money. There's just no logical argument. It's just a symbol of white supremacy and the colonialist victors. It's crazy. It's crazy that it exists, and it's like, it's mostly brown people that they were cruel to, but plenty of non-brown people, white people, who they were also cruel to, and that's like who was mostly a part of this Not My Prince hashtag, because it's the Welsh. What comment mentioned the Welsh, actually? This person says, Not My Prince is trending because Wales is an occupied sovereign indigenous land stolen by the British Crown, and the title Prince of Wales was created in 1301 for the sole purpose of reminding the Welsh they were conquered. Its continued use is a purposeful insult. Welsh Twitter. Thank you, Cassie, because yeah, like Welsh Twitter was going off. So was, I think, Irish Twitter. It was wild those days. I didn't capture most of that stuff. I just kept hearing about it. They were so angry, and they were so like celebratory of the Queen's death. Like, but and there will be tweets that sort of get to that sort of. But like that was the thing, like how the black people complaining and celebrating, or being indifferent, the black people being indifferent to the Queen's death and even celebrating the Queen's death were much more socially, harshly punished than the white people rejoicing about her death, or being indifferent to it and expressing their indifference to it publicly. That was an interesting thing. There's one picture I thought was just crazy, was just so like perfectly we'll get to it. We'll get to it. But it perfectly captured the difference in reactions. And then here's another one. Uh, but I do think this one by Paul Roberts is worth reading, where he says, "Although I'm a Welsh Republican, I've been respectful of the death of the Queen, but today's crass announcement by Charles has changed that. We, again, are being treated like a second-class nation who has no say in if we want a prince or not. Cymru is England's last colony." And I mean, yes, people stand up for yourselves for once. Like, the English are okay with not all of them, clearly, but many English are fully okay with a monarchy reigning and stealing their tax dollars, and them, like, publicly funding this family that does nothing, that doesn't give back even. That, there's that clip of, like, the Ukrainian refugees saying, it'd be nice for some financial assistance to Prince William, and he's like, well, we can give you an odd smile here and there. And it's just like no logical argument for why they should exist. It's insane. A hereditary monarchy, it's the height of unfairness. And that, their treatment of Meghan really exposes that. But just like if you're a little bit, observant, just observing them exposes that also. Yeah, so next pick. Just this person saying, King Charles confirms William and Catherine are the new Prince and Princess of Wales. Oh, take that, Sussex Squad. He also, look at that. Like, I saw because William and Catherine were trending, I clicked on it, and this was like one of the top tweets. And they go, take that, Sussex Squad. He also, this is what it invigorates, that it's like, Meghan is, in a way, like this really great gift to the royals, because she, like, now a lot of the support that Harry's UK family get is, like, rooted in Meghan hate. It's like they would have been right there with the people saying this shouldn't exist. Like, there's no need for a royal family, but now to, like, spite Meghan because the racists hate her so much, and what she symbolizes, the superiority she symbolizes, quite frankly, it makes them so mad that they're so happy about the injustice of a royal family existing. Now every win for them, or every ostensible win for the BRF, is now like a haha Meghan. It's so immature and, like, funny. Like, she's not losing out because they are getting, like, this is not a negative impact to her. Like, this is so immature and such a bad look. It doesn't change the sentiments of the sane who feel there should not be a British royal family. So, I mean, okay, though, this is your victory lap, so go ahead, Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Princesses, Oh the Lies, at Oh the Lies too. Yeah, okay, so I'm not even gonna finish reading that, but it's worth documenting, I felt. And then people, this is like people celebrating how Charles, because he had this address to, I guess, the nation for his mother passing, where he, in it, he said, like, something like, and to Harry and Meghan, we support you, or we always, I don't remember, something about we always will support you, or we love you, with good luck with your new life overseas, or something like that. And, those who hate them interpreted this as a good little slight that, we don't want you back, which is like, they left already. Like, they left. So, of course, like, okay, they did, it's like you're like boasting of how they were fired when they quit. They quit years ago. it's derangement. They are this new royalist fan base, the neo-royalists who are really just Meghan haters. They're so deranged and unintelligent. Um, but this one, Anne Puwu, is gloating, saying carefully chosen words, saying H&M, not Duke and Duchess, and no mention of their supposed children. That they wished well for their life overseas. That says it all. Good job, King Charles III. Off to a great start. Yeah, he had a really great start with the pen incident, with the sausage fingers, with the snubbing a black royalist, with the short temper at his staff in public. Great start. Like, they will say black is white, up is down. They'll lie, these people, to make their point. And then, yeah, the supposed kids thing, it's just a really dehumanizing way to be racist, because I don't think 90% of these people genuinely don't think the kids exist. Like, we've seen them touched and interacting with people. They're not like, there's plenty of footage of Archie existing. But I think this is like, if you're going to be racist in 2022 and you want to dehumanize some very, very white but technically mixed babies, how do you do it? You can't call them little N-words, so you make up names for them. Like, what are they called? Like, Murchie and Lillabucks. That's a name I've seen used for them. Just straight up insulting babies. And you say they're not real. You say they're dolls. You say they're holograms. Like, I'm sure there's maybe a tiny percentage of these people who are, like, genuinely insane and think that, despite, like, Desmond Tutu kissing little Archie on the head. They don't think that's real. They think that was a doll because they're crazy. Like, crazy. There's always been some percentage of any given populace that are truly, like, mentally ill. But I don't think that's most of them. I think most of them are just, this is their little way to be cruel, insulting the kids, dehumanizing the kids in a very literal way of saying they're not human, they're not real. And it's like, it's so absurd. It's funny, except for the part where it's potentially dangerous. And I mean, even if I'm finding the humor of it because it's so absurd, it's very evil. It's like, I mean, but that's a given. These people are the villains. They are evil, and, like, proudly so. They're fully racist, like 90% of them. And so that's what evil people do. Next pick. And then this is just more like people celebrating how Harry and Meghan were referred to as overseas, which is just factual. Nothing to, like, get excited about, but of course they take anything and they turn it into, like, an awesome dig that gives them life, you know. So they like this too, like this, like, epic meltdown from Haz, an actress incoming. Like, they just have these fantasies that Meghan throws dishes and always gets upset whenever I don't know, whenever William and Kate do anything, or Kate's in the news because she looked nice in a dress. Like, they always say stuff like this, and it's like, I mean, it's a way of, I think, coping for them. Like, it gives them joy to imagine Meghan is sad or jealous of Kate or William, and it's just like, it's a pure fantasy. And they're, like, always with the laughing emojis. I've noticed that's a real thing, a very common thing amongst the villain side of any given arguments. Like the people who tend to, like, not be so bright, to be bit not smart, and, like, who lean right, who who are nasty, they always like overuse laughing emojis. I notice it's a thing with right wingers, it's a thing with royalists, it's a thing with Meghan haters. Usually, all of these are the same people, by the way. Uh, yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's an emotional lack of intelligence kind of thing, and I assume they're probably never laughing. They're just, this is how they express. It's like, I need you to think I'm laughing because I'm upset that she still exists. And haha, isn't it funny to imagine that she's angry even though she probably doesn't care, but it's funny to imagine, right? Is the kind of energy of these types of comments. But moving on. More of the same. I think the king needs to tell the truth about, more of the surrogacy, uh, more of the surrogacy uh, conspiracies and the lack of existence conspiracies, that the kids don't even exist at all. The pictures you've seen, the video footage you've seen, holograms and dolls, people, they make them real these days. Yeah, you may have seen Archie in motion and moving about like any little baby does in footage, but fake. It's fake. It's fake news. So yeah, these people are really crazy and very cruel and stupid. Yeah. And then more of that excitement that he said that they live that Charles said they live overseas, and he didn't call them by their titles. Yeah, okay. I mean, like, any of this matters. Just like like all of that time, all of the time spent the way I experienced most of the hatred for Meghan and Harry was not actually through news outlets. I kind of found out later. I was experiencing it on the ground floor from the people. So it's this interesting thing where people keep blaming the news, the Daily Mail even, and I'm like, my beef is with the people. The people were the worst in my experience. It was like, I was in Gary Janetti's comments, I was seeing any article or like news post about them would just draw so much hate. Any post on the Sussex page, their Instagram page, so much hate. That's what I was witnessing, and like, what the hell is happening? Like, I mean, it was clear it was racism and misogyny fueled by racism, where so much of what they accused Meghan of is stuff Kate has done, but they were only mildly misogynistic to her, and they're being extremely misogynistic to Meghan because of race. So the misogyny is largely fueled by racism, and they're just so mad at Harry for picking a multiracial person, a mixed person, to marry and make children with and be in the line of succession with, or to be in the line of succession. Well, no, that was right, to be, because he's in the line of succession, so his children are with him in that line of succession. Yeah, so that's the real grievance. I mean, these are these complaints from day one, from the day their coupling was linked, was negativity, nastiness, and it never stopped, and it got more intense, and she could do no right, and there was never anything. I would always ask when I would argue with these people, what does she have to do to make you stop? Like, what is she doing wrong? What would she have to do to make you not be so nasty to her? Never an answer, not a single one. Always, like, I would get blocked, or they would say, well, she can't really do anything. I'll just never believe her. She just will always seem fake, which is a very convenient thing to hide behind when your real issue is her ethnicity. Because, like, they had nothing. There was no Oprah interview. This was in the thick of her being a working royal. And there was this constant berating and wanting her to leave. Oh my gosh, they would keep urging her to leave. And then she did. And I remember thinking, I kind of wish, like, I hope maybe she should leave. Maybe that would be better. And I guess that's what she and Harry thought too. Okay. Well, they did try to, like, live in, one of their proposals was to live in a Commonwealth country, but that got rejected. So yes, eventually they did leave, and then it's like, pay back the funds for Frogmore for the renovations, even though it was already in the line of places to be renovated, that servants living quarters of a space is anyway. But they did. They're like, okay, pay back the renovations. Now will you leave us alone? Still no. We still hate you. Your stupid kids, your mutt children are in the line of succession, and that's what pisses me off more than anything. That's what pisses them off more than anything. And then you took our prince, and even Piers Morgan said that, which is just so inappropriate. And I know you gotta be like this in this civilized world where it kind of defies our instincts, though. You gotta, like, humans, we duke it out. When you disrespect, we duke it out, especially the men. That's like why every war has ever happened. That's like what that's how that kind of thing has always been handled. We as Americans lost a founding father because he got in a duel because of disrespect. And it's like human nature, it's human instinct. And it's like this part of humanity that people, especially male people, have to like repress now and figure out other ways to deal with. When you're so pissed off, you have to you can't fight it out. You have to do your mental health exercises. And it's like, it's almost a shame. Just because I want to see Piers Morgan in a boxing match getting his ass kicked. That would be awesome. But moving on, and then this person saying how they are so happy that their William and Catherine are the new Prince and Princess of Wales. Okay, good luck with those new titles, William and Kate. And then another royalist who's gushing, and they say, officially they are now the Prince and Princess of Wales, titles that I'm sure they'll hold with honor, because if there's something William and Catherine has shown to the world, is that they're not just a couple, but a great team that wants to try to help as much as possible. Just pure bullshit. What are you talking about? How have they ever shown they want to help people? They're a very selfish couple. They barely worked until Meghan was part of the family. They were married for 7 or 8 years, and they were part-time working royals for all of that time. William went and asked to be part-time working royals, he and Kate, and they were granted that status. So they barely worked, and they would always use the excuse, oh, she's trying to focus on being a mother. Then we see her interaction with her son, her baby, her youngest, Louis, and it's oh, is she? Because it doesn't look like she's got this motherhood thing down, and that's her third. So you know it's the nannies doing most of the rearing. That's who Louis would have respected on that day. But it's excuses for laziness, obviously. And if this were Meghan and Harry's track record, they would definitely get that scrutiny. But Kate and William used to get that scrutiny. They used to be called out for laziness. He was called work shy. She was called Duchess Doolittle by the press, and these are valid criticisms. And now they never get criticized. And you can see that contract. You can see there is a deal between this couple and the press, because all of a sudden, no more negative press. That's not a coincidence. And of course, people don't mind, because they favor them to an extreme now because they hate Meghan so much. And yeah. And then this is a picture of a still frame of Charles snarling at that employee that I guess didn't take off this inkwell or whatever fast enough for his liking, or and I mean, he did this in public. It's wild. Yeah, it's every bit as bad as you can imagine. And I'm realizing it's he was raised to be very spoiled. So he is a very spoiled man, and not a kind man. He was raised to be entitled. And there was, his parents they don't come off as the type to humble him. They leaned into their royal status. And they definitely have a hubris. They definitely have a I would imagine partly because of their age, and their generation, they definitely have racial and racist biases. They were definitely disappointed in the race of Harry's new serious girlfriend, then fiance, then wife. And they were very uncomfortable, even though those kids would naturally be, well, I mean, it could have gone a different way. And I have a whole theory about that. I'll say it very quickly. There's this video on YouTube of a couple that has Harry and Meghan's phenotype, where the wife is mixed race and the husband is a ginger-haired white guy, and they have these twins, these twins, and one looks black or mixed with black, and the other looks like she could pass for just white, and she is like a redhead. And I think, like, what do the palace people do all day? I think someone in the palace, several people in the palace, I think they go on YouTube. I think they go on everything. There's no, like, rich people version of entertainment. And they are very, like, spoiled, and they don't work. They don't have jobs. Their, like, engagements are, like, like, for a month? So, like, they have a lot of downtime to, like, internet scroll. So I think that someone or several of them have seen that video, because also the couple is English, their daughters are English, and they're this technically mixed race couple with mixed daughters, where one, and even though they're twins, one looks like she could pass for white, and one looks like she's at least mixed with black. And it's like, I think they were very afraid. I mean, they were upset probably by the whole thing of a mixed woman being in their family, because, like, mixed people can be actresses, they'll shake their hands. Black people can be, like, foreign dignitaries who they'll dance with at a thing. They can't be in the family, though, not their pure white family. That's very uncomfortable, I think, to a lot of them. So that there would be technically mixed kids in the line of succession, I think was very troubling to a lot of members, especially senior members. And I think some or one of them watched that video and was horrified that, their kid could look as dark as the girl, the twin, who looks like you can tell that girl is mixed with black, like, if you look at her. And that was probably a horrifying thought, that their son could produce an heir, his own, like, heir, who would potentially look like a really identifiably mixed with black person. And I think that's where the root of what might their skin color be concern, not just query, concern, came from. Is like, they don't, like, it's bad enough that they're gonna be mixed, that they have this very noticeably black grandmother, but that they would possibly even look black themselves, like, mixed with black. That's like nightmare stuff for them, for certain members of this family, I think, because it's just not done, not in their lifetime. You can say, oh, well, back in this generation on through this line, they had, Queen Charlotte. No, that has nothing to do with this iteration of the royal family. That's like, are you unaware of all of the racism that exists in the world that happened as recently as the 60s, where this family even had a, like, rule about the limitations of where people of color could work in the palace, that they didn't have to adhere to, like, civil rights laws of how to hire. So, yeah, of course there's racial prejudice in that family. There's racial prejudice in the lowest end, for the poorest people, the poorest white people, the trashiest, in the superficial way, trashiest, the lowest class people. So, yeah, it's not surprising that racism would exist in a family founded on racism and colonialism. Of course there would be that perception that black is a taint, that, like, globally that's a perception, that black is a taint, and of course there would be that perception that it doesn't belong in their family. Again, yes, we'll shake your hand, and Charles, not even that is guaranteed, and yes, we'll dance with a black dignitary from this country, that country, Black people, there will always be black people to eat it right up. They'll say, "Yay, he acknowledged me." And even when he didn't acknowledge me, I'm sure it's just because he was distracted, always making excuses. There's always been that kind of black person. So yes, the kind without dignity, basically. So yeah, it's not surprising that several people in that family and who work for the family, the firm, would be uncomfortable, to say the least, with Meghan marrying into that family. Add to it too, if you're a right winger, she represents leftyism. That's irritating to so many, and she represents feminism, which is irritating to people who are anti-feminist, which a lot of right wingers are. So it's just thing on top of thing for her, where it's not, she didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with being a feminist. There's nothing wrong with leaning left. It's the compassionate side most of the time, and it's like, it's nothing malicious to have that kind of political view. And I actually thought, well, I won't get into that, but yeah, so I even think parts of William lean left. He wrote a whole letter to the Capitol riot widow in our country, in America. He wrote a letter to her saying I think her police officer husband, who was killed because of the Capitol riot, the insurrection, he wrote a something saying, her husband he was she should be proud that her husband kept the he tried to keep order. He defended from these terrible animal people, and I can imagine he would be afraid of something like that happening at old Buckingham Palace. And I mean, that's a generally good thing, and it's a good position to have. But I think, and for the news report I did see where there were comments, people were very annoyed with him for writing that letter saying it's inappropriate. So, but they didn't, obviously, anything that would lose him a right-wing fan base is not publicized very much. And I don't think he wants an American right-wing fan base. I think William, totally looks down on the right wing. Those are not his people. But that's, all he's got, because the left is pretty indifferent, or they think royalty shouldn't exist. But if they're going to pick a side, they're generally going to pick, Meghan and Harry. So he's trying to court them, because those are the people who care about the environment. And it's this weird space he lives in now, where most of his supporters are going to be the right-leaning type, because of what he now represents to them. The whiteness he upholds, the patriarchy he upholds, is he's the symbol of that. So it's an interesting thing. I wonder how that's going to work out for he and Kate in the future. Moving on. Boy, can I talk. And I'm just going to actually read this. It says, "This is not petty. This is the mask falling, showing how people are really treated." Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's rumored and accused in a documentary to have assaulted a staff. And they're trying to convince us that Meghan came in here and was worse than that. That shook these people to their core. I think they just didn't like taking orders from a mixed woman when her type weren't even allowed to have jobs above a certain station, not to talk of be a whole duchess in their face. It's the way, it's not honest to say no one was racist. No, not a single person could be racist and think she's unworthy. Racism isn't a thing. Even though William had to decry all of the bullying of the black British football players a year after Meghan's whole ordeal. It's racism, it exists, and to pretend that it can't possibly have played a part into how Meghan was perceived, it's lying. You're lying. It was. It's why you don't like her, but you can't admit that, because obviously that sounds terrible. So you have to pretend, oh, it's because Hollywood, she's too Hollywood, her makeup is Hollywood makeup. What? Okay, moving on. And then this, Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, cancelling several commitments in the wake of Queen Elizabeth's death. She was booked on The Tonight Show September 20th, but has pulled out. Her appearance at the UN on September 20th was cancelled, and she's postponed her next podcast. Yep. That is our Meghan. She sacrificed a bunch of stuff to be a supportive spouse and to be a supportive period of, she's trying to do everything the dignified way despite all of the hurt that this family has caused, despite all of the rumors that they allow, the evil things they push about her and her children, and that they don't care about. Like, there's never been warmth from William or Charles or any family outwardly, except for Eugenie, of concern. There's never been there's never seemed to be any kind of warmth for those objectively innocent children. You can pretend like Meghan is evil, she did all these sins, so that's why we don't like her. But what's the excuse for being hateful towards Archie and Lily? What's the excuse for dehumanizing them and saying they don't exist? It's racism. And so, yeah. Then this tweet. This was actually posted on the 8th. And this was someone from Wales, and they posted that King Charles III, as of today, Cymru no longer has an English Prince of Wales. The humiliation has finally been lifted, because that was Charles's former title, by the way, and he lost it to the king title, and at this point, it hadn't been announced that William would now take it. So this person sees this opportunity to say, I'll just continue where I left off, well, a little before. The humiliation has finally been lifted from us. It's now our duty to campaign for the uninvited title not to be passed on, but for it to be permanently buried, for it has no place in a modern Cymru. I hope I'm saying that right. Cymru? Yeah, again, no logical argument for monarchy, especially that is what they symbolize, how much they've colonized, who they've colonized and ruling over them. I keep having this argument too, especially lately, they can never say, the thing they always say is just well, people still like them, but people don't like them. Yes, I know there are people who like them, support the British royal monarchy, support their existence, but a shit ton of people do not support them, and the logic is on their side. So what is the reason that they should exist? Or at least, what is the reason that they should rule in any sense over anyone? If they don't want you, if enough of them don't want you as their ruler, their prince, in quotation marks, then you should respect that. And this is not just my post-Meghan opinion. This is I've always been critical of monarchy, but I was when Meghan joined that family, I'm okay, maybe there's progress in this, maybe there will be some forward thinking. This is the subtle small change that could sustain the monarchy, the British monarchy, a little longer, because it's okay, they are about progress. And then they were the complete opposite, because they were that uncomfortable with a tan woman of black parentage, half black parentage, being a part of their family. And then they just blew it. And I don't know that would have swayed the people of Wales, but it certainly didn't help to just add that you're just openly hostile to someone brown being in your family, that you're openly rejecting of it. Someone with a black grandparent being in your family, it didn't help. It didn't help. I mean, in a way, it helped. It helped with certain racists. It helped them like you more. That did happen. But I don't know, it doesn't seem like a net positive here. I mean, we'll see, only time will tell, but really shot yourselves in the foot. Oh, and then there's this. I really liked this series of tweets. As you can see, I literally liked it. And it says, thinking about Meghan and others who reach a place of considering how to attend a funeral, while Elizabeth seemed to like and get along with Meghan, most of that family has not, and they've mistreated her with energy. And I would just add, I think even the Queen Elizabeth's, her relationship to Queen Elizabeth is like, I think it's complicated. It's like, that's my husband's grandmother. This is me, again, I think I said earlier, projecting how I would feel, and just as an outsider here, like, to like have this admiration perhaps for this woman just as an elder, and then like, this is my kid's great grandmother, and she's this huge figure, and I've seen her be warm and silly with them. I've seen her say goofy things, like she cared enough to want to know what to get my son for his birthday. I think it was his birthday, and she got him a waffle maker. He's really into waffles, so she got him a waffle maker. And she's seen the Queen, as I said earlier, in a way none of us have. Even all the English people who are the Queen's age, who she's all they've ever known as a reigning monarch. Meghan knows your Queen better than you do. 100%. Like, not even trying to. That's not a gloat. She's a clearly flawed person. But it's like, that's just factual, because that's a part of her family. It's not your family. You can like lean into your whiteness and your Englishness as much as you want, but that's not your family. That's Meghan's family. They share blood. Her children share blood with those people. You do not. Well, I mean, potentially you do. Queen Victoria had a lot of descendants, but you likely don't. And you didn't meet the Queen. You never sat and had a conversation with her the way Meghan has. So, like, calm down. But anyway, so I guess I was just saying, her feelings would naturally be complex, and there would be hurt in there. Especially if the Queen ever, like, failed her. If the Queen, like, could have said more, done more, and Meghan knew she could have, but she decided not to. And I don't know if that was the situation, but it easily could have been. It easily could be one of the things that she didn't like, that Meghan didn't like, that hurt her potentially. It's a lot. It's a complicated situation, and for people who are capable of like understanding nuance, who are not in this hate spiral fueled by racism, who can just look as outsiders at this complicated situation, it's like natural to go, oh, I bet she has complex emotions. But she's like, Meghan is like, she's not viewed or by a lot of really deranged and evil, vile people. She's of course not viewed in that human way. And even like just dumb people who are just like, women shouldn't complain kind of people, they're like, you're a princess, like, shut up. Like, I've seen that, like, why would you even complain? You're like, just like the understanding of a child, like thinking you being technically a princess through marriage is like, and this is post Diana, but like, yeah, thinking you're being a princess through marriage is like the end all be all, and it soothes away every problem you could have, and it makes you eternally happy to have the title of princess. Just, this is how a child thinks. Like, Bethany Frankel is kind of in that camp of just like really her understanding her perception. And like, disappointingly, Loni Love, like, they were talking about, I remember Meghan's second podcast, I think, about how she was like, she actually has like self-worth and confidence and values herself and recognize herself, like I chose him too, like, this was not one-sided, like like the sort of, I don't know, subtext in that is like, he's not this perfect guy. Like, being a prince doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't like wash away your the like you have to function as a couple. It's like you don't just like the childish way these people think. Lonnie was like, "Girl, you married a prince. Like that's it. Like okay, so we'll never have troubles again." Like that's not how that works at all. Like most of Harry's uncles and aunts are divorced. Like Anne is divorced, is a divorcee. Andrew is a divorcee. Charles is a divorcee. Who's the fourth one? Oh, Edward. He's not. He stayed married. But like couples get divorced. Like what are you talking about? Royal couples get divorced. You don't just exist as a prince or princess and then it's just happy days. Like you have to like marriage is hard. Marriage like especially with all that pressure and those demands on it, the royal pressures, the being in the spotlight and being vilified. It's just like, but they have this like childish view, like, but you get to call yourself princess. Isn't that cool? Like, no, like, and I feel like I was so disappointed in that reaction where these like public figures who were responding to that quote of Meghan from that podcast were just like they had a completely childlike response to the idea of marrying into a royal family. And again, I started to say this is post Diana. We live in a post Diana world who showed us how ugly it was, not just because Charles cheated on her. Like she even said in the book, like the book version of, and I think it was called In Her Own Words, I think. But she said like she like wanted to take Prince Harry and William on like vacation, like, and she wasn't even allowed. And like when your children are born, like technically they're the property, like their legal guardian is the what do you call it, the reigning monarch. So when Harry and William were born, the Queen Elizabeth was considered legally their guardian, not Diana. So, and she wasn't permitted. She was like forbade from even taking her kids by herself. So like I don't know. I guess maybe people don't know the details, and I even need a refresher. But it's not this amazing experience. Like we keep seeing that it's not. Fergie's experience was not amazing either. And she even did her own Oprah interview post-divorce. And it's like, and people still don't learn. People are still so immature and like nasty to women. It's like crazy. It's like you should just be grateful that you got to wear a crown or a tiara and you got to like do a big wedding. It's like, shut up. You're like, I can't believe you're an adult and this stupid. I'm sorry. It's just, that was so disappointing to see like the little talk show hosts and all of them. Well, I only saw two, but like between the two there were like five different people commenting on that, and they all had a bit of like, but you get to be a princess. Like what? Like I'm younger than all of you, and even I recognize that is the most childish takeaway. Like from day one, since Diana, I've always looked at the family like I could see, oh, being a princess, not all it's cracked up to be, clearly. And these people are like twice my age, and they're like, but you get to be a princess. You got to marry a prince. Like, I weep. I weep for humanity that these are the people at the helm. Anyway, so continuing on, I guess I shouldn't read all of this. It's very long, but this woman made just some excellent points. I'll just scroll, or I'll just go through each picture as I talk. Basically, she was saying that she empathizes with the crazy position Meghan is in to have to deal with this clearly abusive family. Like the structure is inherently abusive. To even have a second child be like labeled the spare is a inherently abusive thing. That like in these aware times where we're aware of mental health struggles more than ever, and we're better at understanding how treating children a certain way can impact them negatively as adults. Like hearing, learning your identity is that of a spare, that like outside of the royal family, the British royal family, we can recognize how harmful that would likely be. But like, because it's Harry who committed the greatest sin of like marrying a non-white, even though I mean she is white, but you know, a mixed woman. It's all of the like humanity, all of the ability to empathize with a certain sect of people, not all people obviously, is just thrown out the window. It's just not done. Like, now people pretend they'll again do the black is white, up is down actually when it comes to matters involving Harry and Meghan, because they just can't ever, they won't allow it to ever happen where they're painted in an empathetic light. Like, I even think to that story of Meghan's, how she dealt with that fire, her and Harry's, well, Archie, almost being part in a smoke-filled room, where like further details revealed the thing was like there actually was fire. It melted, the like heater melted into like this kind of pulp, and it had to be carried out of the room, and like the smoke was billowing out of the room. That's how someone even detected it, and it was just fortunate that he wasn't in there. And like, no empathy for that, and it's such a natural thing to hear about that and go, oh my gosh, she must have been scared. But like, no, it's like, oh, she's complaining about nothing. Like, what kind of, that's the reaction of a racist. That's not a normal reaction to someone telling you that. And the point I was trying to make there is how that is a pretty big story, and that would have been like a nice little sensational, or a nice little story to sensationalize. So it's not even just about making money, because they could have made stories out of that. Like, there's no, I think the staff of the Daily Mail, they got that information, and probably information on a bunch of other stories that would have, if shared, made Meghan and Harry seem sympathetic, and you know, forced people to either feel empathy for them or show how like deranged and racist they truly are, to be so openly like mocking of them. And you know, so it's telling that they didn't publish those stories. So it's like, it isn't just about the money they can make, because those would have been big stories for the Daily Mail. Like, a lot of those writers behind the scenes, they're like connected to aristo families, and they're very much invested in preserving that white power structure. And like, so that, you know, that would require them to not like ever allow Meghan and Harry, especially at that time, to be painted in a light where the public could even potentially sympathize with them. Because I do believe they must have known about this, and they just chose not to make any story of it, even though, and it will come to those pictures too, they make like stories out of everything and anything to do with Harry and Meghan, anything, and they didn't make a story of that. Like, that's a choice, and there's an agenda here to frame her as impossibly bad, and someone you mustn't ever empathize with or see as human, a fellow human, a scared mother. No, you can never. We won't even risk it. And they deliberately didn't ever share stories about them that would have anyone that would risk anyone coming across them and empathizing with them. And that was very, that's something I realized in all of that, in all of the talk about that story, when Meghan shared that in the first episode of Archetypes with Serena Williams, that like, that's crazy. Like, given what I know their habit to be of making like 12 stories out of one little thing that Meghan or Harry does, and you didn't make a single story out of that fire. And I mean, there's a possibility they didn't learn about it somehow. Royal staffers didn't tell them, or their royal connects didn't tell them, but I strongly doubt it, because they blab about everything, it seems, like every little thing, making up stuff along the way too. And no one told anyone on the Daily Mail staff that happened. I don't believe that. I think they did, and they're like, there's no way to cover this without making them look a little bit sympathetic. And at that time, there was a whole huge, I mean, and it's still the case, by the way, but especially at that time, there was a huge agenda for William, for Charles, for people behind the scenes to never frame Harry or Meghan in an empathetic light, especially Meghan. Like, and so I think that's why they didn't run that story or any version of it, because they risked making her seem like someone you should see as a human and sympathize with, and they were going fully into the dehumanization of that woman, of Meghan. And it's just so evil and manipulative and evil. It's like crazy how evil these people are. But also, like, yeah, I mean, this is the same type of people who, like, protested Ruby Bridges and screamed death threats at her. So it's like, I guess I shouldn't be that surprised, because it is the same type of people. So this is all just this person saying how she has been in a situation similar to Meghan's, where she had to make a choice about going to the funeral of someone she did not like and who was like a source of trauma for her. And like the whole beak around those people seems to be, I'm an outsider, but it seems to be a source of trauma for Meghan. These people seem very cruel, and all their evil witch faces when Meghan was near them, it's like they couldn't even pretend to be civil, and she just looked so composed. It was like kind of perfect. I'm glad those pictures exist, to be honest. Like, you can tell, like, all Kate had to do, all the indignities she's faced, and how her husband would probably never defend her in this way, and how Meghan got it, and she kept her dignity, even though I know they tried to take it away from her. Tale as old as time for women with black heritage, but she kept it. But the sane people are not viewing her in the light that like royalists, racists are. Not at all. Like normal people, they like look at her and they see like this beautiful, like famous lady. Like I have these conversations and they're not like Sussex fans at all. It's like it's a very overwhelmingly positive feeling towards her by like normal people. So yeah, it's, you gotta break out of these bubbles sometimes, because it's like online, it's like it's always Sussex people who have their bias of favoring, but like I think that's a reasonable position to have, because Meghan is this overwhelmingly good person. And then you have the other side, the Cambridge, well, they're not Cambridges, the Wales people, maybe I should, out of respect for the people of Wales, I shouldn't refer to them as that. I'll say just Kate and William. The Kate and William fans, they are like, they're also like very much in the know of all of Meghan's goings on, and they have these opinions that are like not really reflected by the masses. You know, that's when you have to remind yourself online's not real life. It's just like talk to people. People overwhelmingly view them neutrally or positively. That is the overwhelming sentiment. Especially in America, there's this thing of like, oh, I don't care what the royals are doing, but like, yeah, Meghan seems cool. That's like, that's the what I'm used to hearing from people, like versions of that. So yeah, so yeah, just all this. That's basically what this lady was saying. That she empathizes with Meghan, and I do too. Like, she was in such a crazy position to like have to be around those people and be in a way alone, because so much of it was Harry being in one place, and her being in a separate place, and just carrying out the duties with her head held up, looking stunning, especially next to that melty face one. I don't know. I'm usually not like I'm usually not like for taking digs at women's looks, but like I'm just so sick. I've just been dealing with it for like the last 4 years now. Just they criticize and get so cruel about everything about regarding Meghan's appearance, and I've been seeing them do that for years, and so much under like, I don't even want to repeat them, but like so much was said under like Gary Janetti's photos and posts about her, like so many cruel comments about her looks, and so much pleading was done by me and the false idea that Kate wouldn't want you to make fun of her, and you're trying to do this in Kate's name, and I bet she would be so disappointed. Oh my god, it was so cringy to think of. Like, Kate was probably some of those accounts. Those were probably some of her burners. Like, now, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know, but like, I don't think Kate was as nice, or is as nice as I originally imagined she was. She seems like a very mean woman, actually, and the more I learned about her, thanks to Megan, is the more I'm like, oh, this is a very, like, subpar lady. Anyway, so then this one, I took a picture of to screenshot how, like, Markle was trending with 52,000 plus tweets, and then some of the top, comments mentioning her. This one by Chris Evans that says, I honestly did not realize how bad the racism is in the UK. Wait, what? I honestly did not realize how bad the racism is in the UK. Okay, I'm gonna read this the way I know he meant it. I honestly did not realize how bad the racism is in the UK until Meghan Markle. And it's like, yeah, kind of the same. I was a little naive, which is, I mean, I had my moments of pessimism, to be honest. I, like, remember, like, before they were married, before Harry and Meghan were married, I was thinking, like, I thought, like, but how will the most racist members of the family behave? I bet, like, they're gonna be so, like, mean girl to her, and, like, but, like, they'll still have to respect her, and oh gosh, you could probably write a book about how, like, sideways some of the comments are. But I thought they would, under just like the with the imperative of wanting to keep the appearance of not looking racist, of not seeming racist, they would pretend. Maybe they wouldn't be nice behind the scenes or whatever, but they weren't gonna, like, treat her too badly. I guess what I thought. And it's like, no, wrong. They are. Even worse than you imagine. Even worse than some of the stuff you've seen. It's crazy. Okay. And then this other comment that was critical, by someone called Southerner, I guess. They said, how long until Meghan Markle makes the Queen's death all about herself? And it did similar numbers to the one above it. And it's just like, it's laugh worthy because it's like, she didn't do anything. You did that. Look at, and all the people who liked your comment did that. And this is not, they, like, really fictionalize who she is to be able to justify treating her with cruelty, because she's, like, never done that. This is not, like, a thing. Like, there isn't, like, oh, remember how when they were at this one thing and she was like, me, and she's like, but me. Like, she doesn't have a habit of making events about others about her. Kate kind of did that. Kate with her golden sparkly dress, that was their night to relish in, and it was, she, like, came in as the golden sparkly orb, like, that, like, oh my god, imagine if Meghan ever did that, if she went to some event for someone else's premiere and she dressed in gold, like, but look at me, everybody. Like, again, this is one of those things. Kate does it, it's fine, ignored. Now she has this whole new additional fan base of right-wingers and racists who just hate Meghan, and that's what their love of her is rooted in, hate for Meghan. That was a big thing in the early days of Meghan's Duchess days, was, like, every compliment now for Kate under the, like, Kensington page posts would, like every other one, like, I would even see, like, say, like, it was maybe 2 out of 3 would be like, this is how a duchess dresses, and this is what real class looks like, and this is how a real royal wife should. It was always this, like, dig and slight at Meghan. Like, that's what it became. They couldn't just compliment Kate outright. They had to, like, they had to make sure they were including a slight at Meghan. Like, this is her fan base now, is, like, Meghan haters and racists. Well, those are one and the same for the most part. So yeah, it's just so absurd. Like, you're the one making it about her with this tweet, with the articles. Like, you could have easily ignored her. You could have easily just posted, oh my gosh, the queen, blah blah blah, and articles could have focused on the queen, but you chose to focus on Meghan, then blamed her. And this is like abusive behavior too. Well, I don't know what this would be called, but what is it called? Maybe gaslighting, when you like accuse someone of being the reason that you're treating them poorly. Like, what, how do I describe it? It's like what do you call it when you obsess over someone and stalk them, and then you turn around and accuse them of courting, like blame them for the attention you give them, and you accuse them of, like, I guess that's just gaslighting. I guess that's just under the umbrella of gaslighting, right? Because it's like you're lying, you're like, and you're like, and you're like absolving yourself of guilt, like you're blaming them for your behavior. Like, all it's all, the bigger umbrella too is abuse. Like, it's this weird thing where these people are the abusers. These people are abusive. They have these abusive tactics that they employ against Meghan and Harry, but especially Meghan, where it's like she's just sitting there. She was quiet for months while she was a duchess, like a working, well, she is, but you know what I mean. She was living in England. When she was living in England, she would just be quiet 4 months straight on maternity leave. Hundreds of articles about her in that span, as she's doing nothing. She's doing nothing to make headlines, and hundreds of articles are written about her, condemning her, vilifying her, dehumanizing her. And then people turn around and say, oh my gosh, she's like such an attention whore. Like, that is so manipulative. That's another thing it is manipulative. It's dishonest, it's gaslighting, it's abusive, where you like, you make this person have to exist in this impossible land world where like she has a right to want to do stuff eventually, to want to go outside and advocate for her charities, continue on the path she was going on before she met Harry, of being an advocate and a charitable person and a speaker of on things that she cares about. She has every right to do that, and then to say, oh, this is her attempting to seek attention. I thought you wanted privacy. What? The two are not, you being wanting privacy doesn't mean you hide forever. Like, it's such a manipulative and dishonest thing to say. And so this is like just more of that. This comment is probably a bot comment. Like, so many of these are bot comments, but it's so like, it's just an excuse for racists to be hateful, for racists, for misogynists, for people with all kinds of prejudices against lefties, against women, against feminists. This is there because there's no logical reason to feel this way, or to say something like this, or to hate her. She's done nothing hateable. And like, the thing I especially can't stand is just the comparison of how much attention is given to someone like Meghan versus someone like Vladimir Putin. He should be getting tweets with this many, well, he should be the focus of people's attention and ire. And it's just like something about women being disobedient. That is what will always draw the ire in people. There's nothing that inspires hate mobs like women, like especially disobedient women, and it's almost always left-leaning women. And I think it's actually exclusively left-leaning women. I can't think of a right-wing woman. So it's almost like there's safety in being a right-wing woman, because this like never happens to them. Like, all the ones I can think of lean left, and part of why they are hated on so severely is their left, their patriarchy challenging, their racism challenging points of view. And there's always a big, loud, firm foot that comes for their necks, that comes to step on their necks to like stop them, because they like there's always this urge to uphold patriarchy, and anything that threatens the white dominance power structure is always like gonna be attacked so severely and so disproportionately to the crime. Like before Meghan could even be, I guess, argued as doing that, although I guess her mere existence was doing that for them. But when she was back in England working as a royal, working as a duchess, just like her touching her belly was inspiring ire. Like she didn't even have to commit, she wasn't like doing too much feminist wise. She was like very benign, such a like harmless figure. She's not like trying to flatten a country or anything, certainly. But that was enough to make people like so next level hateful of her. I remember the whole pregnancy, it was so cruel. And you'd think, I mean, I don't know why I would think this now. It's like, that's like almost childish the way I thought before. It's like, it was so naive. Like, you just look at history, what this kind of person has done, the kind of people who hate Meghan so much, they've done worse. Like, as bad as what they've done and are doing to Meghan, that kind of people are capable of much, much worse. Like, if they could get their hands on Meghan, like what they've done, just like look up like Mary Turner. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that there is a huge section of Meghan's hate base who would they would gleefully do to Meghan what was done to Mary Turner while she was pregnant or after. Like, that kind of mindset, that is not, it still walks among us. To think that, oh, people aren't like, and these were not like alley people, like, these were not like street urchins or people who were raised in some like fucked up on the outskirts of town kind of commune where that's just very violent. These were like normie white people, normie racists, and this is the kind of stuff they did. And you just have to always, and I have to say this to myself, I have to always remember those people did not like go extinct. They still very much exist. They're still all around us, and it is that bad. They are that evil, and they just can't do that anymore. Meghan is protected, and I know they hate that, and because they are that evil. They absolutely would. No, don't. I'm like half talking to myself here. Don't like let your guard down and think, no, people are nice now. No, they aren't. I mean, but people were nice then. There were good white people then. There are good white people now. But the bad, evil ones have also always existed and still exist. And they would do the worst. They would do the worst if they could, but they can't. And so this is how they cope. They just say these nonsense things. These lies to vilify and dehumanize her. To justify vilifying her. Or vilify her to justify dehumanizing her. And vice versa. Because you can't just call her an N-word and like bust into her house and drag her out like you could once upon a time, right? So this is what you do instead. You lie about what she is, what she represents. You overstate it to extremes. You call her a narcissist because it's the only N-word you're allowed to call her publicly, and you pretend that she's all these things you made up. You make up stories about the perfume she wore. You make up stories about throwing coffee in someone's face. You make up stories about her being bullied to Charlotte, and I think Meghan will be Charlotte's greatest ally one day. Like, that, it's so awesome that she has her as an aunt. But yeah, like, gosh, I fear for Charlotte. Because like there is, because when you're black and left-leaning, they add the racism to it, but they are not above being this cruel to a white woman. So, like a fully white woman. Like, that's not a saving. Like, look at Harry. Like, Harry fought for his country. He's their prince still. He, like, has been respectful. Like, criticizing your upbringing, and like, but saying it with empathy, saying it's how that we were all raised, like, and so he feels for them. He actually said that. He didn't bash them as so many like to frame it. He was very empathetic to what they grew up with, what his father grew up with, what his mother grew up with. And his father, Charles, has said that he called the queen, your queen, he called Queen Elizabeth cold. He said she was a cold mother, and that's just like a little bit of what he said from the excerpt I read of this biography that he wrote or co-wrote. Like, he provided the information for, that he 100% co-signed, and said after its publishing he had no regrets about. He called his mother cold and his father overbearing. Like, that's a direct criticism of his parents, your queen, and this was when she was queen already. He blamed them for not being able to marry Diana, even though part of that was like his own fault of like caring more about the crown, or not being able to marry Camilla. He cared more about the crown because he wasn't willing to step down or aside for well, thank God, actually. Thank God it's not Andrew, right? God, what would have happened? Monarchy would have ended sooner, I guess, if it were Andrew who was the new king. Oh, God. Oh, and we wouldn't even care about the family at all, would we? Because Diana wouldn't be, she would be, like, doing good in her community. Oh, it's almost, I want to cry a little bit. But we wouldn't know who she was. She wouldn't have had the global stage she did if she, I mean, maybe she would have, though. Who knows, like, what her fate would have been without, like, she could have gotten famous some other way. I'm realizing that's true, and maybe she would have. She had so many interests and such, oh my gosh, I might cry. She had such a long life. She was only like 19, 18 when she met him or got engaged or something to Charles. But she never got to live that. She married him, and like, yeah, they brought us William and Harry, which now at these days I'm really just thankful about Harry. And it's like, yeah, those two wouldn't exist without their pairing. But you don't know what you don't experience, right? You don't. So like, Charles would have created two other maybe children with Camilla, and he would have been, like what is that to him? His uncle, oh no, his great uncle, because that's the queen's uncle, who like abdicated to marry Wallis Simpson. So he would have done that, and I mean, hey, that's what you got to do for love. Then you do it. Your great uncle did it, and but he wasn't willing to let go of the throne, so he married Diana, and ruined her life. Enhanced it in ways. I'm sure she got some cool experiences under her belt, but it's such a shame. And so he blamed his parents for that, and said it was like a disaster. Like, he really bared his soul, was honest in his own way. He told his truth. And people want to come down on Meghan and Harry for telling their truth, for talking about their experiences in a very polite and very, like, surface level way almost. And that was too much. Like, I mean, her whole existence was too much. So she was never going to get, like, a fair assessment, a fair shake of this, of anything she did. So of course she could have been quiet in the whole interview, and had just had Harry talking, and still would have been like her doing her little manipulative, conniving hands, right? Because that's what women are. Women be manipulative, right, people, right? And Jezebels, right? So speaking of archetypes, yeah, so he did that, and it's just ignored. It's just swept under the rug that he like directly criticized his rearing. But when Harry does it, it's like, how could you traitor? But Charles was a traitor first, guys. If this is what it is to be a traitor, to just talk honestly about how you were raised and not like praise it because you see the flaws in it, then Charles was the first traitor, actually. But so okay. Anyway, so this is just BS. It's just lies. It's a manipulative, dishonest way to frame things. Like, she's just existing, and her existing in a space is what's making you talk about her and center her and obsess over her and write hundreds of articles about her in this short span of like 10 days or so. That's not her, like, blaming her. Like, I guess that's victim blaming. Maybe that's what I was looking for. You're blaming the victim of your ire. You're blaming the victim of your obsession for you obsessing over her. And then I screenshot some of the responses to it, where this Rebecca Logan lady's like hoping for their divorce. This Irene Britt USA lady saying, you know, agreeing, I guess, and saying in 3, 2, 1, even though it doesn't make any sense. She's just existing, and everyone's making, like, that's not a neutral. Anyone who's neutral would see she didn't actually do anything to make anything about her. She was, it's the media making it about her. That's like, all my biases aside, like, that's what is obvious here. So, you know, it's very telling when people just hate anyway. Like, when has she made anything about her? It's always you. It's always the hate base. It's always the Kate Will fans. Even like Kate and William's ascension into Wales titles, they made that about Meghan. Like even like the picture, because this has happened, the picture of the two couples, Charles, Camilla, Kate, William, that picture came out recently of them, like the day before the final day of the actual funeral. That's when it was taken. They like, a bunch of the comments made that picture, and the articles made that picture about Harry and Meghan. Like, oh, this is saying there's no possibility for Harry and Meghan to come back. Like, some version of that was a Daily Mail headline. So who's making it about them? That's you. You're doing it, and then you do this underhanded, little manipulative victim blaming thing by blaming them for your obsession with them. It's so creepy and dishonest and gross. Moving on, though, I liked this Lindy Mama comment where she says, how long before all you Meghan haters start making the Queen's death about your hate for Meghan? Not long at all. Within seconds they did that. It was yeah, I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny. It's you know, go Meghan, you're powerful, ma'am. And then more dishonest comments about how, oh, she's definitely going to make this about her somehow, some way, even though I'm the one doing that, even though I've, like, 80% of my tweets in this time of mourning for the Queen are about Meghan and Harry, and that's my choice. But I'm going to frame that as them making it about themselves. It's like, just the dumbest, most dishonest people. And then this comment, so we're out of that. I named this Daily Mail headlines. The Daily Mail's industrial levels of hate-mongering aimed at Meghan Markle barely slowed as the nation mourned. Run your eye down these 15 headlines from the last 48 hours, then consider they only ran one negative piece about Prince Andrew. It's a sickness, a deep sickness. Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is I think the tweet I alluded to earlier, that this is what they do. They obsess over her, and then they blame her for their obsession. 15 articles about Meghan. Your queen died, and you're obsessing about Meghan, and they'll turn a deaf ear to anyone pointing this out. All the hate channels will You can point this out, they just won't acknowledge you. They'll even potentially block you. And so they're obsessed. They are obsessed with the real queen, the elected queen. And then this is like a close-up of all the headlines, all those 15 headlines, and only one was about Andrew. And all Meghan did was exist, and so, yes, what a crime as a woman of color. And then he posted this tweet where he quote tweets an old tweet of his from 2021, but in the current tweet he says, "This has been going on for years and years, by the way. In the thread below from last year, I looked at a single 24-hour news cycle worth of attacks on Harry and Meghan." And then the old tweet says, "This is what institutionalized bullying and racism looks like. 50 articles attacking Meghan Markle were published on the Express website yesterday. That's 50 articles in 24 hours. One headline in particular, highlighted below, deserves special attention." And then this is a close-up, and the one that was special, in red, number 12, is the headline was, "Media didn't bully Meghan. If anything, they glossed over warning signs trouble lay ahead." Just total manipulation, total abusive Darvo tactics. Darvo that was used against Amber Heard by Johnny Depp and his fans. Darvo used against Meghan. Yes. They are obsessed with her, bullying her, taking her down all the pegs because of her partly brown existence, and probably the stuff about her being left-leaning doesn't help, but it's primarily, I think, for, like, because this unique role she's in, where she is a duchess in what they consider their royal family, and has birthed children who are in the line of succession, who are technically not fully white, which is a problem for many. And so they're obsessed with being cruel to her in these completely unjustified and obsessive ways. And there's no like logical argument to be had here of how this is acceptable, of what makes it acceptable. It's not. There's nothing she's done to warrant this. And like, again, all of this for Meghan, who's done what's her crime again, versus Putin, who is like threatening nuclear holocaust here. It's like, that's how strong white male privilege is. That's how vile people are to women of color, to women in general, to be fair. So yes, this really goes along with the theme, the intended theme of my channel, the worst of Times New Roman. Not literally Times New Roman font, but it represents the written word or the typed word. And this is what we live in. This is what we live with. This is obsessive abuse. And these same people, out of the ones in America who lean right, would be so angry if this were like Trump receiving treatment like this. They're not consistent. They're not honest. The bias is strong. The okayness with this is because of what she is. She's done nothing. She's committed no crime. She there's not this much reason, 50 articles worth of reasons to attack her so severely. And it's a money maker. I know that's what people keep saying. It's like Meghan Markle hate specifically is like a whole industry. And notice who's silent about it. Their silence is very loud. And then this is the other part of the list after 30. So yep, 50 articles, 24 hours. Amazing. And then this tweet from him, this was actually from 2021, where he says, by comparison, the Sun is practically a model of probity, maybe, with a mere 28 aggressive headlines yesterday. Theirs tend to be even more vicious than the Express file, where they lack in number, they make up in impact. So, yep, 28 articles, you can see them all in one shot there. And then this is a close-up of them all. Let me read some of these. At least 10 ex-aides queuing to help Palace's probe into Meghan's bullying lies. Charity boss who did awkward curtsy for Meghan Markle has to delete tweet. Defiant Harry and Meg insist Oprah chat will still air despite Phil's heart op, that's what they were trying to do, silence them by like shaming them and getting the people to shame them. It's like this is what I was talking about earlier, like where you like enable abuse and abusers by saying it's wrong of you to talk about it, by shaming the abused, and by saying it's wrong of them to talk about how they were abused and to talk about any unpleasantness they experienced. Like that was the big go-to. They call Harry and Meghan doing this interview elder abuse, because just talking about their experiences, clearing up lies, partly stirred by this what you were looking at, the press. They did it on purpose. It was very deliberate. This is like nothing compared to not nothing, but they were doing versions of this, sometimes more intense versions of this, in the past, while she was doing everything right, while she was still living in England working as a duchess. They were treating her like this. And so to do this and to have, his family like helping them and even, giving them information and just be spreading lies about them, about Harry and Meghan not wanting, titles for their kids because of her American sensibilities and just because it was something to bash her with. Because though the people didn't want Archie and Lily, or Archie at the time, to have a title either, but because it was framed at the time as Meghan's decision and her like stomping all over Harry's traditions to like override them with her American sensibilities, they attacked her for that. That was just another opportunity in the Sussex comment section to attack her. It was just another opportunity in the Sussex comment section to attack her. So even though I'm 1,000,000% sure that they didn't want Archie to have a title, when they heard that he didn't have one because Meghan didn't want him to have one, they blamed her. They blamed her and they attacked her for it, and they called her so disrespectful, and they said, oh, she doesn't want him to have a title because she'll be jealous of him. I remember all of that. I'm so angry that I didn't take more screenshots, but I did take some screenshots. And I have like so many photos in my phone that I need to go through. But yes, they just, any excuse to hate her. If she wanted titles, they would have framed that as bad of her and condemned her for wanting titles if that had been the story they ran with. And if she doesn't want titles, as we saw, that was the story they ran with, because all they saw was that Archie didn't get any, which they kind of expected him to, because his cousins had. And so they blamed her, they made up false stories that it was because she didn't want them, and then they used that to attack her. And again, the people, I wasn't even that aware of how bad the press was at that time. I was seeing the people, the comments under the Sussex Instagram page, and then under the Time Cambridge page too, about Meghan, and any on the For You page, any post that involved them, when E! News posted about them, it was always just filled with people being so cruel to them, just saying the cruelest things specifically about Meghan, the tiniest things, why is she always holding Archie? Like, even though it's in the same, like, South Africa trip, Harry is also pictured holding Archie, and they're, like, attacking her for holding Archie, her son. And it's just, they just could not express loudly enough how much they rejected her and didn't want her and were never going to warm up to her. And then they also condemn her for leaving, even though that's what they were saying. They would literally say, I wish she would just leave. Like, that I think I did screenshot. They would literally say, I wish she would just disappear. These implied, like, wanting her dead comments. And so then she does, and then of course they condemn that too, and it's always an excuse to condemn her, because they just want her to not be here. They want her children probably to not be here either, or at least to not be in the line of succession. Like, these are just really evil people, and they're not challenged. They get to freely be evil. They get to just say whatever they want. They get to spread whatever lies. And so it's this wild system where people with these racist biases, these racial hang-ups, are rewarded, and they get to just be very hateful. And it's deliberate. They're all working for the benefit of keeping intact the white power structure and the male dominance power structure. That's their incentive. They hate that she exists. And I know I keep repeating myself. But let's go to the next picture. Okay, and then in this one, also in 2021, Edward tweets, but let's not forget the Daily Mail, who managed to scrape together 31 articles yesterday from the sewer they get their Meghan Markle attack stories from. Note, they tend to go for ridiculously long headlines. Yes, that's like what I commented on earlier. That summarize the whole story, so have truncated. So have truncated for space, which is ironic because he left out I to do the same because of Twitter's character limit. But yeah, so I have truncated for space. And then you can see those. I don't have a close-up of those headlines, but you can kind of make them out. So yeah, this is just, it's abusive. This is a very abusive system, and it's like, this is not normal. Like, that's another thing, because like, since this funeral shindig happened, there have been like these videos by black content creators who are very like lukewarm, like half in half out with Meghan, because they're like, they're I think part of it is they're not aware of the severity of how she's being and has been attacked, and they're like, oh well, you know, if she were black she would have expected this. And I'm like, no, because I wasn't expecting this. This is so beyond. This is like, I know like individually black women have faced unspeakable heinous crimes, and to be fair, a lot of women have who are not black, but like on this like level, this whole, like, a country's whole media presence is attacking you, dehumanizing you, making life unsafe for you and your kids. And then also like another one, Australia's media powers are doing the same. Rupert Murdoch has it in for you personally. Like, that, I don't think a black woman has ever experienced quite that. I know black women have experienced, dark-skinned black women specifically have experienced untold traumas and a lot of trauma, but like, this is its own thing, like, and it should be like treated with the understanding of horror that it deserves, because this is like a horrifying kind of existence. Like, this is a horrifying level of attack. This is next level. There's almost no one comparable. I think the closest, I suppose, would be Amber Heard. But this is such a unique way to have to live in. I know it's kind of balanced because she does live in luxurious wealth. It sounds like her Montecito home is amazing, and I know that that makes the hate base hater even more. But you know, like that like a nice place to live, a very nice place to live. It doesn't completely offset this, like this obsession in the media. I don't know. It's like, because I felt it from day one. Like, I would feel hurt and depressed for a few hours and sometimes days, and I had a whole thing where I was like, okay, I'm no longer reading Sussex comments. Like, when they post, I will look at their pictures and I will not go into these comments because they ruin my day. Because they were so mean. They were so dehumanizing and cruel to Meghan and Archie. And it's like she just had a baby, and I even thought, like, how is she surviving this? Like, and I've had this thought for like every woman I've ever observed be disproportionately attacked. I remember, like, the first one I can really remember is like Lacey Green. She had a huge, ginormous hate base. She's a YouTuber, if you don't know. And it was that one was mostly guys, and they were so evil to her. And it's like the way they talk. It's like, and this is like the theme for everything. Every time this happens, it's like the way they attack and the glee they get out of it. It's like they're hoping for the big S. They're hoping for a self-deletion. Like, and I have to remind myself that kind of person exists too, who just they actually are hoping for a self-deletion. They actually are wanting the worst for you because they hate you that much for being a woman, for being a mixed woman, mixed with black women specifically. And yeah, like the second one I experienced that with was Franchesca Ramsey. The same kind of thing, and it had me thinking, how is she surviving this? This isn't, how does YouTube allow this? And now it's like the biggest version I've ever seen, only maybe to rival Amber Heard's, where it's like this next level type of attack. And I found myself thinking, but again, this was mostly from the people's comments, not headlines. I wasn't as aware of the headlines and what the press was doing at that time. And I'm like, how is this okay? How are, like, all, like, what I kept finding too were hate pages. When I would go onto the For You page on Instagram, there would be like so many hate pages, like royal fans and arch holes, where they're, I think, I'm pretty sure that's the not channel, the account that created those dehumanizing names attacking babies of for Archie and Lily, calling Archie Murchie and calling Lily Lily Bucks. And they, under the guise, oh, we're actually just attacking the how is that you're attacking the kids though? And they say we're attacking the parents, but you're not. You're attacking the children. You're name calling children, and it's not even accurate. Like, they don't make money off of their children. If anything, Kate and William do that. And for all of my annoyance at them standing by and helping this hate mob for Harry and Meghan, especially Meghan, I can't even, like, this is why I, like, have to remind myself, we're not the same kind of people. I would never in a million years attack George or Charlotte or Louis or make nicknames, nasty little nicknames for children. And it's like, we're not the same. Like, I have to remind myself, we aren't the same. These are like evil people. These are the kind of people who, again, if they could, Meghan Markle would be Mary Turner 2.0. They absolutely would. Like, there's no barrier. They are willing to attack children, even, again, very white children. That shouldn't be but like, it's that they're that deranged, where even just the small, like, mixture of blackness that her children have is too much, and is connected to why they hate them and are willing to be so dehumanizing and want their title stripped away. Like, can you imagine if, like, do you think these people, if William or Kate ever fucked up, did something bad, they would want Louis and Charlotte and George stripped of titles? You know they wouldn't. They would be like, oh, we can't harm those precious innocent kids just because, William did this vile thing or Kate did this vile thing. They would never. It's like the reason they're able to hate babies, a toddler and a baby, is because they are racist, and that is how evil a lot of racists are. They will hurt children. They'll hurt children without a second thought. It's nothing for them. And it's like me and my empathetic self trying to figure out, how are you able to do that? It's like, again, I gotta remind myself, we're not the same. We're not the same. I don't think like them. I could never do that to those children. So, yes, reminding myself, reminding anyone listening who's, Sussex side of things, you're not the same. You have to remember, like, you're dealing with an evil type of people here. These are not, like, people. That's a big thing I learned from experience, actually, was these people cannot be reasoned with. I kept being in this mindset of, oh, if I just point out this, if I just structure my argument this way, that'll get through this. They're not like, they never had a logical leg to stand on. It was never about because I thought, like, if I just pointed out how Megan doing this is normal, or it's understandable because she's like still new and learning, then surely they wouldn't hate her so much. They won't hate her so much. Like, but it never made sense for them to hate her that much for doing something like closing her car door. That didn't make sense to begin with. You're like half talking to myself, I had to, like, you're not working with a normal type of person. Or maybe it's normal for a certain group of people, but I'm not talking to someone or communicating with someone who is like sane and of a neutral sound mind here, because this is not the comment alone of such hostility is not a normal reaction to someone wearing or crossing their legs. This is not a normal, your rage because she crossed her legs is not normal. Then people will, of course we can pull out dozens of examples of Queen Elizabeth doing that, of Princess Anne doing that, of Kate doing that, and then where are you then? Just like you did, royals don't guest edit magazines until it's Charles guest editing, until it's Camilla guest editing. Then Dan Wooten is completely silent. Like, for anyone who is, like, unaware, on the fence, like, maybe Meghan really is bad, and maybe they are being fair. No, they are not. Like, how can you still think that? That's why I can't help but think everyone who is against Meghan and Harry, especially Meghan, is just one of the irrational, deranged, evil type, and not like someone who's just genuinely clueless. Because, like, but then again, if you are clueless about all of this, about the amount of headlines, especially if you're American, because that's a big part of why I didn't even know about how much the Daily Mail was doing, because I mean, although the internet is it doesn't have a country, but I wasn't running into those very often, the articles about Harry and Meghan. I wasn't coming across them. I wasn't aware of how much the Sun was putting out about them until, like, maybe 2021, last year. So again, my experience was with the people, the English, presumably, people, and so many hijabis, actually, from, like, Singapore. A lot of Singaporean racists I encounter. I just remember, like, a couple weeks where I just kept running into, like, ladies who wore hijab who were from Singapore, and they were like, she just doesn't fit in, she'll never be a royal. And it's like, who are you? Like, who are you? Like, anti-blackness is universal, so this is not a huge surprise. And then there's this tweet, this old tweet that was in response to Edwin's 2021 tweets, where this person wrote, they wrote almost 250,000 articles about her in 1 year, and she was on maternity leave for 6 months in that year. So that really sums it up. That really sums up what the problem is, or part of what the problem is. And I just, what on earth could you possibly argue to justify that? Like, what, how could that ever be justified for Meghan Markle? Like, again, these weren't articles about someone who's actually a potential threat to humanity, like a Vladimir Putin. This is Meghan Markle, who's committed no crime, done really nothing wrong, and you're obsessing over her and her every move and fictionalizing her life in maligning ways. Over what? Because she stole what? Because she murdered who? Because she didn't do anything. Like, the obsession with disobedient women is just next level. I said it before, I'll say it again. This obsession with taking them down and seeming to try and take them out. Like, I just imagine myself in her position. I would have such a strong, if I even could survive, I like to think I am mentally strong enough to survive it. I don't know that I would have as much grace as Meghan. I like, there's certain things, like, I know what she's, like, part of it is just that's her personality. She's just like this, she's not a, like, sharky kind of person. She's not, like, the type to clap back, as they say. And she's trying to do it in this dignified way, which I respect, but it's like, I don't know how long can that last. I mean, it does seem like the pattern here, when I think about all the women before Meghan who have gone through some version of this. Lacey Green, Francesca Ramsey, Lily Singh, Hannah Gadsby, Brie Larson, even Amber Heard. Even Beyonce has had her own like hate base of like people attacking her, calling her overrated, saying she can't sing, just like ridiculous, calling her a witch, literally accused of witchcraft. Like, in the black community, there are men for decades now who have been literally encouraging young boys to kill each other. But Beyonce is saying stuff like, what, I might just be the next black Bill Gates in the making. That's the witchy stuff. That's the demonic stuff, people. This is like where women exist forever, is just like her mild crimes that are debatable to even call crimes, and her is just the proverbial woman here, will always be like framed as evil. Like, the most extreme bad is like she could just blink too hard, yawn, look too long to the left, and there will be people who call it witchcraft, who call it signs of evil, signs of narcissism. Meanwhile, Putin's over here blowing up Ukraine, and this rapper over here is talking about all the people he's murked and the people he plans to murk, and those are fine. That's nothing. That's just boys being boys. But these ladies, though, and like, what are their crimes? What havoc have they caused? Oh, it's in the works. It's from Beyonce. It's been like 20 years coming, but it's coming. What's the master plan? How is the devil using her exactly? We don't know, but we just feel it. Isn't that convenient? You just feel it, and you don't have to prove your accusation. And the same with Meghan. And there are so many women. I'm like, I once made a document, like, I wrote all the women I could think of who have experienced a version of this like disproportionate attack, disproportionately large hate base for their quote-unquote crime. And it's always women, and it's always so severe and so dehumanizing. Beyonce is also in the camp of people who've been accused of not carrying a kid, Blue Ivy. And in Beyonce's case, it's just like, that's why, I mean, women really, because like, men are not going to do it. Men are not going to have your back like that. So women really need to have each other's backs. And, like, women kind of struggle to have each other's backs like that too. And then racism, it seems to divide women more than it does men. Like, I don't know, black man, white man can like get together and oppress women together, but like women really fall along those racial lines. So like that's why, I it's hard to even be like in a community with white women, because like a significant portion of the people attacking Meghan Markle are white women. I mean, a lot of them are, what I've learned, are called pensioners, older women who are just like have those old racist views and just like see her as a taint and a unworthy and what's the word, ungrateful girl in the racist way, because she like has boundaries with her dad, like who is like objectively a clearly bad person. And best believe if Meghan and her dad were like actually on good terms, then they would be vilifying him too. Just like in the beginning when they didn't quite know where he'd fall, they were attacking him, they were making fun of him. I remember those early days comments. They were making fun of him. Daily Mail comments were making fun of him and calling him trash and saying, look at the trash he comes from. But now they go, oh, because he's embarrassed her and he hurts her, so now they're team him. They love the trash man now because he's like against her. And so anyone who's against her, they will support. And if those two ever like reconciled and he actually like agreed to not go to press, he like, I don't know, got on his meds or something, then they would hate him again. I promise you. Like this is not whatever Meghan is doing, whoever is on her side is bad. The people who help her are bad. Even if she's done something objectively good, it's bad. If she says something wise and smart, it's bad. If she does anything charitable, it's bad. Nothing she does can be framed as good with, her hate base. So I forgot, I was like rattling off those women's names for a reason. I kind of forgot why. Oh yeah, what I was saying before is that the pattern that I notice with women who get disproportionately attacked is that they do not really address it. That's like the pattern. They like, some kind of do, like Beyonce kind of has in a couple of songs, but there's never like, it's rare to have like a Cardi B kind of thing where Cardi B will like go on Twitter and just straight up argue with people. That's rare though. Like most the women I like listed, they like kind of address it, but mostly they take it on the chin in mostly silence, and they keep going. They like keep going forward, and it's a very uniquely kind of female thing, that mental strength where you have to like learn to take just next level abuse and attacks on the chin in a way men really are not expected to, never really have to. There are not like a million slurs for men. There aren't like a million ways to degrade men. Men of color, it's a little different, but like men for being men, it's not like, that's not really a thing. So it's like the thing, I guess, is the norm is to like maybe address it a little bit. Like I think Lily Singh once had a video called Addressing the Haters, and always just being really poised about it. Is like almost none of them like really do it in a clap back style. They always do it with dignity, with a smile, no matter how painful. Like all of them, for all of the ones I listed, I felt pain. I felt like hurt and sadness and depressed and anger watching how they got treated so cruelly, verbally, and just dehumanized, and how they have to, like, for a lot of these women have to read that in their comments. They can't enjoy comment sections like a normal person because the comments about them are so vicious and mean and cruel, and there's cruel art about them. I know Lacey Green had that really awful picture of her. There's just always so much indignity that follows how people treat, or I should say mistreat women. It's that's the pattern, and they always have to take it on the chin, and if they address it, they always do it like really like dignified. The most you'll get is like a little cheeky for the most part. Again, there's your Cardi B types, but like Beyonce will just be like a little cheeky in a song, and not mean though. She's never like mean to the haters. She's just like, what you said is silly. That's it. Like, what is the line that where she kind of addresses, oh, y'all haters corny with that Illuminati mess? That's all she said. That's like all she gave it, and people still call her a witch and say she's doing witchcraft and demon stuff for like being like, I don't know, sexual, and being like, there's like, oh, the floor in one of her videos had a pattern, and that is a demonic pattern. Like, I don't know what that is in people. It seems pretty ancient though, this need to vilify women to extremes, and like this bloodlust to like take them down. I don't know, it's like, it's an ancient thing. Oh, Jada Pinkett Smith, she's another one, more recent one. And like men there, I can't think of comparable men. The closest I can think of are like, there are things that like the Megan hate base say that totally have taken me back to like the things that they would say about Barack and Michelle Obama back in like 2010, and how those comments would ruin my day and make me so angry. I was like a kid then, and it was like, this is how the first taste of how nasty, evil people can be, and especially a certain type of people. It's kind of their pattern, actually, and you should very much acknowledge that, like, that it is their pattern. 100%. I don't like that, like, and you should be wary of it. It's like they're capable of some next level heinous stuff. It's like their whole history is that. And like, no offense, but Harry's UK family kind of represents leading in that kind of behavior. Like, Brits would sit around in days of old, and just think of ways to torture each other. Like, literally that. Like, there's like this book called, I think, 100 Medieval Ways of Torture or something like that. And it's just like, to think of how each one got thought up. Like, it was just a bunch of, probably, well, let me not gender it, but a bunch of people just sitting around and thinking of ways to torture prisoners. And just unimaginable, but clearly they imagined it. Cruel methods, just disgusting stuff. And this is their pastime. So you gotta remember, like, those people are not extinct. Don't ever get it twisted. Don't ever let your guard down thinking, oh, those people all got educated out of that. I mean, if they were educated out of that, there wouldn't even be a monarchy system, right? Like, if they, like, they're still super duper sheepish. Well, sheepish is a real word. I meant sheep-like. Okay, so that was my point, is that Harry, is that so Megan might stay on this path of just being dignified, because like she like just remembering how I perceived her, my real first impression, which is thankfully a very pure one, because I am one of the few million who knew about her before she was tied to Harry. I was a Suits fan, and then I went down the rabbit hole of, like, because I do this with everything. I did this with, like, Game of Thrones cast. When I got into Game of Thrones. I did this with, I do this with bands, too. I remember I did this with Panic at the Disco once upon a time. And even, like, College Humor. I was such a College Humor fan in the olden days of College Humor, when like Sarah and Streeter were like people, in the cast, or on the, I don't know what to call it, team. And like this is just my habit, is like I've like a thing, and then I'm like, I want to know everything about all the players of the thing. And so for the Suits, for Suits and the Suits cast, I did that, and Megan was the one that like really got me, who was like, I like her, she's like feminist, she's like smart, she's articulate, she's like sweet. And even then I got this impression she's like a big softie. And then to throw like this empathetic softie into this world, Harry's world, and just surrounded by like evil vipers and people who are the kind of people who did that, like, or descended from the type of people who did that thing of thinking of ways to torture each other, and then she's got to figure out how to navigate that, and doing it while smart, and probably realizing people around her are not so smart, but she seems to be the kind who's kind and meets people where they are. And now to like, if that is your personality, this basically big softy, empathetic woman, intelligent, thoughtful, and then like you're in this crazy new reality where people are printing 30 articles a day, collectively hundreds a day, certainly hundreds a week, trying to get the people who already have a bias against you because of your racial makeup to believe that you are actually like the devil reincarnated, to believe that you're a narcissist, to believe that you're a bully in this space where bullying, a royal being a bully is like a norm, is like the blood royals being bullies, and Princess Anne having like nasty words with staff, that like they all have bullying allegations that were never publicly declared as something that will be investigated. It's just like before there was Meghan to like, you know, rally the troops of white supremacy and make people who otherwise didn't care for the royals like really feign care for them because they now represent whiteness. Before that, people would just criticize the BRF pretty openly and like reveal like they're like really shitty behind the scenes. They're mean, they're bullying, they're like inappropriate, they like physically assault staff sometimes. And then like Meghan comes in and she like, again, she like like without meaning to, without trying to, she rallies all the like white nationalist troops, and now the BRF has like this army of people bolstering them to attack Meghan. And the point I was making though was like to like be this big softy, and now you're living this crazy reality where you can't just like come on YouTube and say this was a lie, Kate actually did this. And like that's not really that normal for celebrities to do anyway. Like even just non-royal famous people, most of them don't do a Cardi B. Most of them handle bad or rumors quietly. They don't address them. They don't breathe life into them, because addressing them is this unfortunate thing. It has the effect of like making more people know about them. And then of course, as we've established, anything Meghan does is bad. Anything Meghan does will be framed as bad. So while she won't like sue Tom Bower for the lies he's told, that to them, that's a sign that she did those things. But if she did sue him, do you think they'd go, oh, that's a sign it must not be true? No, they would just go, that's a sign that she's lying and she's trying to oppress the truth. She's trying to oppress us. Like, that's been the argument whenever someone who genuinely was inappropriate, usually in a way that has nothing to do with bullying, by the way. Like, I know Wally Yankee got her account taken on YouTube, but like I saw a couple of Wally Yankee videos, and one of them she was like sharing what looked like CP. C, and that stands for child. Yeah. So I don't think she got her account taken for bullying Meghan, because other accounts bully Meghan and they are fine and they are untouchable, it seems. And I mean, again, that's like the pattern too with these women. It's like there's always this, like, you can bully them pretty freely. YouTube doesn't care. You're making them money, so it's fine. On social media sites don't care. There's like so many, some like very blatantly racist accounts, anti-Megan accounts on Instagram, and like if you get in there, you'll see comments that are just like one comment I saw calling her a half breed, like under a hate channel. Um, that's not like let's not pretend that this is anything other than racism here. So people are at times willing to just be very frank and honest about that being their bias. So yeah, I mean, again, women are just put in this position of having to be dignified, and through pain, through hurt, through attack, through abuse. And I gotta say, I mean, I guess it's not, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, maybe that is the best way to handle it. Like, maybe as bad and imperfect as that is, because it just, like, allows people to keep running their mouths. Like, maybe the alternative is worse. Maybe if she, like, you know, if someone, if any of these attacked women ever dare to, like, straight up address it in this very, like, giving it a lot of their attention kind of way, maybe that would be even worse, and maybe that would lead to an even worse result than kind of ignoring it, you know? So I just, yeah, I don't know. And I can imagine being in her position. My goal would be to just be me in public. Like, I just, it's so, like, easy for me to see myself in her position. I know me. And, like, for people to say, like, I'm into, well, not this specifically, but, like, I'm just thinking of outlandish accusations. Like, I'm into, like, she's into witchcraft. She baby, she does voodoo. I don't know why I'm down this path. So I just imagine myself being in her position, knowing what I am like, my real personality, obviously, and then people just having free reign to say completely made up lies about me. I know, redundant, but yeah, just complete fabrications and lies about me, and being in this position where if I address it, I will make it more popular. And people who, and a lot of these people, again, they're sharing this stuff, and reading this stuff knowing it's a lie, but they don't care. It's like, it's not about, oh, I have to get to the truth of who Megan is or who this hated, targeted woman is. It's about, I hate this woman. I hate this woman, and if you tell me anything, tell me she ate a baby, I will spread that shit. I don't care. Like, they don't believe it themselves, is what I'm trying to say. They just hate her, so they will spread it. So then you're like, you're opening up yourself to more of that, to people, for people to, like, use you, like, talking about it as a reason to attack you. They'll now say you're complaining, you complain too much, even though it's a perfectly reasonable thing to complain about. And when it's one of their guys, like a Trump, complaining, they're applauding him, right? So yeah, it might be best to just let them say what they're gonna say. Speaking of Lizzo, Lizzo has a song like "Let 'Em Say," and I think maybe that's what. And she's another one you could throw on the list. Like, let these people say what they're going to say, and then I think what you have to do, what you like, again, like what I think I would do if and I think I would probably decide to not, like, start a YouTube channel where I, like, but a part of me wants to. That's like what I was getting at, is like a part of me wants to just break all convention of famous woman life and just, like, get on, YouTube or whatever and say, I'm going to address this week's lies about me. So actually this is false and this actually happened this way. But I feel like that would be you're just feeding them if you did that. So I probably wouldn't actually do that. And so if I did take the path that most of these women take and just didn't address it, my thing would be, like, if people thought all these just wrong things about me and how I think and how I am, knowing how selfless I am, knowing how much I care about others, sometimes to my detriment, knowing how nurturing I am, and people framing me as like a witch lady who is super selfish and self-centered and everything. Uh, I would just try to be me and like be me publicly, and like that's why I would go on a show like Ellen and a show like Jimmy Fallon, or was it the other Jimmy? I think Fallon, and just like be me, like humanize myself, because like that's my new job, I guess, because I've been dehumanized so severely in the media that people forget a human is behind these headlines. Again, I think a lot of these people are just doing this knowingly, and there's like no amount of decent she could be to make them not be cruel to her. There's no like if they saw a secret recording of her just being a sweet mother and friend and wife to the people she loves, they wouldn't just like, oh, I was wrong. They don't care. I think a lot of them already know they're wrong and they just hate her. That's like how racism works. It doesn't matter how nice you are, like they don't give a fuck. So yeah, but for maybe people who are more out of the loop, not in Sussex territory fandom, not in the royalist racist hate dome, that the normies, for the normies, I guess, who like just have that subconscious thing of like not trusting women, which a lot of people have. I think most people have that sort of misogynistic bias of like being untrusting of women. Like there was a UN study that actually found that. So you have to like humanize yourself, like it's like so many things have said, like so many like pieces of art. Well, two musicals. I'm thinking of Matilda. Tim Mitchum said through his characters, how did that lyric go? Nobody but me is gonna put it right for me. Nobody but me is gonna change my story. Yeah. So I mean, it's a play for kids, but it's a true thing. It's like you have to tell your own story. So that's what she has to do. Like, because they will just eat her alive, and bury her in articles calling her everything but a child of God. And I got off on a very stray tangent here. This video is gonna be long. Like maybe too long. Like I'm thinking I should upload it in parts, but I really wanted to make it one big mega video, but it's like that'd be crazy because there's so many more pictures to go, and so I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I guess this could be a part. This would be part one. Oh my gosh, all of this and it's only part one. Oh boy. So maybe this might be part one, and in that case, thank you for listening and watching, and bye, and see you in the next part. But I may be ambitious and do a whole big chunky 5-hour video, but that would mean I only have I already am almost there. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be a multi-parter? Probably. Alright, we'll see you in the next part, unless I change my mind. In that case, you won't have heard any of this, because I'll have edited it out. But yeah, okay, we'll see.